Goodbye, Florida. Hello, Houston, as the Astros finish off spring training at Minute Maid against an old rival. Live from Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, spring training baseball on Comcast Sportsnet moves from Florida to Houston. It's game one of a two-game series between the Astros and the Chicago Cubs. Good evening, everybody. Bill Brown and Kevin Eschenfelder. Well, the mood changes a little bit when you get in a big league park.
Absolutely, it does. A lot more electricity here. Granted, it's still a spring training game and it's an exhibition game, but the juice is flowing just a little bit more, especially for a lot of these young players and guys that have never played games here at Minute Maid Park.
We take a look at some of the guys who had outstanding springs for the Astros, including Rick Ankiel, his best spring training in his career.
Oh, there's no doubt. You talk about the land of opportunity, a guy that just needed that opportunity and certainly took advantage of it. He can help you in a lot of different ways. Look what he was able to do with the bat. His best spring training ever at .432. But he's also a very good corner outfielder. And Philip Umber, former Rice Owl, had the perfect game a year ago, but the struggles were obvious. But this year, very good in spring training. And Brad Peacock, he is locked down a spot in this rotation as the number 4 starter for the Astros.
The Astros hit a lot of home runs in the spring, and now they bring it back to Minute Maid for the next to last game of spring training. We hope you'll stay tuned for tonight's show, including a lot of familiar faces and many new ones as well, including our own Julia Morales. She makes her Comcast Sportsnet debut with us in just a moment. In Houston, where it's a cloudy night, very pleasant, and the fans have turned out to see the Cubs face the Astros in the night game, followed by a day game tomorrow. Julia Morales, our newest employee here of Comcast Sportsnet, Houston, is waiting on the field, and Julia would like to introduce you to the Houston folks, and we are really looking forward to working with you this year.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be a part of this great team that y'all put together. Speaking of first impressions, you only get one of them. It's what I've been told many, many times in my life, and Bo Porter was talking about that today, saying that he feels like the Astros have already made a good first impression with what they did in spring training, but it is important to put on a good show in front of the Houston fans tonight, and Carlos Pena kind of drove that point home when he said that no one's looking ahead to opening day, even though it's so close. They just want to win tonight. Bill?
He's been all about that. Here is the starting lineup now, and it's brought to you by TXU as the Chicago Cubs, managed by Dale Swaim, go with David DeJesus in center field, Starlin Castro at shortstop, Anthony Rizzo at first base. The cleanup man is left fielder Alfonso Soriano. It's Nate Shearholz in right field, Wellington Castillo the catcher, Luis Valbuena at third base, Darwin Barney the second baseman. The DH is Deoner Navarro, and the pitcher for the Cubs will be Edwin Jackson.
Alex White gets the start for the Houston Astros, his 6th start of the spring, 7th appearance. Hasn't gone too well. 1-1 with an ERA up around 7. That's 33 hits and 15 earned runs in 19 2/3 innings this spring. Last time out on Monday against the Washington Nationals, he gave up 4 runs, all earned on 9 hits in 5 innings of work. He was in that battle for the number 4 spot in the rotation. Instead, Alex White more than likely will be the long man coming out of the bullpen as he gets the start tonight here at Minute Maid Park.
And the Astros have brought a lot of extra players from the minor leagues for this 2-game series, so you'll be seeing some of the future of the Houston Astros later on in the game as some of those young players will come in and replace the guys who have been grinding it quite a bit this spring. Alex White goes to work now on De Jesus. David at .364 for the spring with a homer and 5 runs batted in. And he clips the inside corner with strike 1. Clint Fagan is the home plate umpire for this game tonight.
Get used to the way certain things look, and it just looks so strange to look down in that dugout right now and see so many players. That's a crowded area down there.
Oh, yeah. Every spot is filled on that railing right now. White missing takes the count to 1 ball, 1 strike. Alex is 24 years old. He was a first-round pick of the Indians in '09. Then he was traded in a big deal involving Ubaldo Jimenez to Colorado in July of 2011 and came to the Astros last December in a trade for Wilton Lopez and a player to be named later. It's a 1 ball, 2 strike count. So with Alex White, a native of Greenville, North Carolina, and a guy who pitched at the University of North Carolina, settling into this Astros club as that long man. The Astros are fortified. They had that battle, as you mentioned, Kevin, for this final spot in the rotation. Brad Peacock claimed that spot, and Alex will probably get his innings in that long man role.
And that's going to be a tough role, but it's another situation where, as you know, you stay ready because rarely, whether it's a rotation or a lineup, is going to look the same even by mid-May as it is at the beginning of April, much less in September. Guys go on the DL, other guys have to step up, and obviously that'll be the chance for Alex White to get an opportunity as he delivers the 2-2 pitch here.
That's cracked sharply past a diving Altuve into right field for a leadoff single for De Jesus. And we'll take a look at the Astros defensively.
Chris Carter getting that start in left field. Justin Maxwell, the man in the middle on that outfield. He is flanked in right by Rick Ankiel. Altuve and Marwin Gonzalez, the middle of the infield. Brett Wallace and Dominguez on the corners. And Jason Castro, the battery mate of Alex White.
Another Castro, Starlin, is in the batter's box. 23-year-old phenom for the Cubs. He has more than 500 hits in his first 3 major league seasons. .297 major league batting average for Starlin Castro.
Yeah, Starlin just rejoined the club. He was back in New York for the birth of his child. Rejoined the team here before the Cubs get the season started on Monday for real at PNC Park against the Pirates.
They go to Pittsburgh and Atlanta on their first road trip of the year before their first game at Wrigley. They've come from Arizona for this series, where they just said goodbye to one ballpark. They'll be entering a new ballpark next spring in Arizona, and the check swing call gives Alex White a strike for an 0-2 count now.
Castro is one of those guys that just, you look down and you go, man, he's just 23 years old. It seems like he's been around for so long because not only did he come up at a young age, but he played a lot at a very young age. Making the team out of spring training for the 3rd consecutive year. Sean Dunston, the last Cubs shortstop to do that in 3 straight years.
There you see where he ranks among the leaders in hits the last couple of seasons. Good play there by Jason Castro on a 1 ball, 2 strike count. There is a lot to take in now if you have not seen Minute Maid Park in person in the last few days, because the workers have been feverishly updating this ballpark with the new colors.
Had new colors, so obviously a different, a lot of paint being put on the ballpark here. I would say old ballpark, but it's nothing but. This place is absolutely pristine. It has been since the day it opened. It's always been one of the great ballparks in the big leagues. You know, the state of Texas has 2 of the best. And this one in Arlington's a great ballpark as well.
That pitch is ball 2. You've got to look there at the concourse. Of course, all those aisle signs had to be replaced with the new colors, the orange and the blue, as you can see.
Yeah, out goes the black brick and sand, which was the previous colors, and in come the blue and orange.
The logo there on that post in the distance, and you'll see a lot of that when you come out in person. And as we look at the scoreboard, it's a totally different look out in that area as well.
And the best big board in the big leagues. That's just absolutely outstanding. Remember wasn't that long ago where the television screens like the one you're seeing right there, the big screens, you couldn't see them during the daylight. Now they're just absolutely brilliant. That's high definition right there.
And a beautiful look. Wind has been blowing out to left field. J.J. Watt hit a few out in batting practice.
Swung and missed 13 times, Brownie.
Did he really?
Yeah, Jeff Luno gave me the scouting report. He swung and missed 13 times, and he was hitting them off the facade, the back wall, once he started to make contact.
He hit one over all those billboards up there.
Goodness.
Just underneath the light tower. Yeah, that man has some kind of immense power. NFL Defensive Player of the Year.
And you know he's got good hands because he was a hockey player.
Yeah. There's a liner to the right field. That'll be a one-hopper. And a single for Castro as the Cubs get something started against White. First and second, nobody out for Rizzo.
Just staying back, keep your hands inside the ball, shoot the ball to right field. And that's really what Starlin Castro was able to do right there. Look at this. Not trying to do too much with it, not trying to yank it. Just be able to put it right there, serve it up into right field. Now, Alex White's got a little bit of a pickle to deal with right here before he is retired a man in the first inning.
He could use a triple play ball right here.
It's in order.
Anthony Rizzo, the batter. 23-year-old slugging first sacker. Well, the Cubs are pinning a lot of hopes on him, aren't they, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely, and with good reason. You know, he's a guy that's always had big expectations. He was involved in the Adrian Gonzalez deal, San Diego and Boston, and now came over to the Chicago Cubs. And so, you know, obviously with the talent that he has and has been able to show, there are high expectations for him, without question.
Last year, he had 15 homers and 337 at-bats for the Cubs.
Just 23 years old. Boston to San Diego in the Adrian Gonzalez deal. San Diego into Chicago for Conroe native and Conroe High School product Andrew Kashner.
Anthony Rizzo is a big part of the Cubs offensively, and they've scored 172 runs this spring while going 16-18 to this point. The Cubs are in a rebuilding stance right now, acquiring young talent in the minor leagues and young talent like Rizzo at the major league level.
And not unlike the Astros from this standpoint. They lost 101 games a year ago, but they do have a lot of talent in the system. It's the new organization that may necessarily be on the big league level right now, but if you look and you think about teams in the National League Central, the Cubs certainly have one of the brighter futures.
White's behind 2-1 with 2 on. And gets a foul ball. 2 balls, 2 strikes now for Alex White.
Yeah, this was very similar to the game he had against the Washington Nationals when he really struggled early on in that ball game. And the thing is, you struggle early, you get that pitch count up. That's something everybody is obviously keeping an eye on. I was told earlier that in tonight's game, once he gets done, once Alex White gets finished in this one, they will go with major league relievers. So you'll see some of the regulars. You'll see a lot of the regulars in this one tonight. But you're also going to see a lot of those new faces and guys that you're really curious to see what they are like. The Carlos Correas of the world, Jonathan Singletons.
George Springer is here.
Yep.
You know, some of the top guys in years to come. Marwin Gonzalez was the opening day shortstop last season. Jed Lowry was injured to open the year, so he got that distinct thrill in his first day in the big leagues. Got a year of seasoning under his belt. Now it's Ronnie Cedeno sharing time with Marwin at that shortstop position. Cedeno pick up right here at the end of spring training after he had been released by St. Louis.
Didn't work out for Tyler Green. Timing was everything for Ronnie Cedeno. Released basically on Saturday and signed on Sunday by the Astros. What do you have to make the drive just over? And he was in the lineup 2 days in a row for 2 different teams in spring training.
Big 3-2 pitch here. And Rizzo blocks one, but it's foul. He sure turned on that inside pitch.
Yes, he did. And that is quick to get there.
Very aggressive approach from Anthony Rizzo. Now, you mentioned the Cubs, having lost 101 last year, are trying to do it right. So there are many similarities between these two clubs right now in the front offices of both the Cubs and the Astros, drawing high marks for their acquisition of young talent in the last several months.
And maybe, as the base is loaded now and nobody out, a similar mindset, too, at the top of that. Theo Epstein, the president of this club, Jed Hoyer, the general manager. Both of analytical thinking, much like Jeff Luhnow.
Gonzalez came in. Castro goes out. They talk with White with the bases loaded and nobody out. And the Astros, of course, with a different look in that starting rotation this year. Some players have moved on. Others have come in. It's Bud Norris in line for the opener Sunday night against the Rangers and their lefty Matt Harrison. Lucas Harrell to pitch game 2. Then Phil Umber, Brad Peacock, and Eric Bedard to round out the starting rotation.
Yeah, you know, Philip Umber to me is the guy in that mix right there that maybe the most curious of, because obviously a guy that has outstanding stuff is not able to ever really put it together. We saw him against the White Sox a year ago and just really struggled.
Alfonso Soriano looks at strike 1.
Speaking of a guy, seems like he's been around forever.
Yep. Alfonso's 37 years old. He hit 32 homers last season. 372 major league home runs on his playing log for his career. This one goes to right field and over toward the line. Ankiel with the runners tagging. He fires in toward the plate, and look at this. And no throw into second base. Everybody moves up on a sac fly as Soriano makes it 1-0 Cubs. Ankiel's big arm made it closer than many would have thought at home plate, with DeJesus scoring, Castro taking third, and Rizzo moved up on that throw. He's at second base.
Yeah, I'm not sure if while he was showing off the gun here, I'm not sure if this was the best situation, because here's a situation where you want to get this ball into second base and keep 2 runners from going into scoring position. That said, a great read by Anthony Rizzo. And now the Cubs, with less than 2 outs, I beg your pardon, yeah, less than 2 outs now, have runners at second and third. Is that a play he makes in the regular season?
I don't know.
And that's one that would strike me as curious.
Nate Shearer holds the batter. Former Giant outfielder hits one near the left field line. Chris Carter going over and watches this one bounce out of play. I asked Chris Carter before the game how he thought it would be playing left field in this park. He said, well, it'll be interesting. And, of course, it gives him a chance tonight to learn a little bit more about his new territory in left this year.
Yeah, he's never played here, obviously, before as an Oakland Athletic, but, you know, out there, this is not an easy left field to play by any means when you take into consideration the wall. And people say, well, you know, it's only 315 feet down the left field line. You know, some of the toughest holes in golf are some of the shorter holes. There's a lot of tricks out there, especially when you start getting into the around the corner, around the scoreboard there.
No doubt. 1 ball, 1 strike to Shearholtz. He figures to be in a right field platoon, and that would mean he'd get the majority of the playing time as a left-handed batter. Shearholtz, 29 years old. He had 241 at bats with the Giants and Phillies last year.
He was traded for Hunter Pence when the Philadelphia Phillies sent him to the San Francisco Giants, or back and forth. When Hunter went to San Francisco.
That's right.
Shearholtz does have a World Series ring in 2010.
He looks at that one, and it's 2 balls and a strike. You know, speaking of World Series rings and the Giants and how good they've been, that'll be one of the intriguing races this year in the majors. The Dodgers and the Giants in the NL West.
Boy, they released today the payrolls, opening day payrolls, I think $238 million. Obviously, a lot of that's coming from the Boston Red Sox, from the trade that they made last year and acquiring guys like Hanley Ramirez. They've got a lot of big contracts on that team with the Dodgers. I would say there's as much pressure on both teams in LA as there are maybe on any other teams in baseball, except given the inherent pressure of playing, in the Bronx. But that said, those 2 teams in LA, there's a lot riding on those guys.
The Angels are being picked by many to win the AL West. With that tremendous lineup of theirs, their spring training ERA has been very high. And Mike Scioscia has even expressed some concern about his pitchers this spring. That's lined over first base and foul.
Getting some good cuts right now on Alex White.
Castro goes out. Yes, they are. 2 sharply hit singles by DeJesus and Castro to open the inning. Then a walk. Then a Soriano sac fly. Now they try to figure it out. It's interesting as we talk about Alex White, Kevin, and he's headed for, as we mentioned, that long man spot in the Astros bullpen, at least to open this season. What's really intriguing is Jeff Luhnow's plan for the minor leagues.
The tandem starters.
He plans to have shared starts by pitchers in the minor leagues this year, at least for the first few weeks, and then probably that goes away. There's a swing and a foul tip, and Scherholz is down on strikes. That was a good productive visit by Jason Castro. Looked like an off-speed pitch coming in effectively for out number 2.
I read his lips. He went out there and told him strike him out.
Oh, that's good movement.
A little down and away. Swing where you think it is, and it ends up someplace else. That's pitching. And now there's 2 away, and maybe you can get out of this. And you'll take that. Bases loaded, nobody out. You'll take it giving up 1 run any time.
Wellington Castillo, the batter. And there's strike 1 upstairs on him. He's hit 200 this spring with a couple of homers. Cubs catching situation looking different this year. They have a lefty hitting Steve Clevenger, who can catch and play the corner infield spots as well.
Something you see with these teams in the rebuilding, if you will, mode is guys that can do a lot of different things.
Carter over into left center field, but that's a flyer, and then one hops the wall. Maxwell plays it. 2 runners home. And it's a 2-run double to make it 3-0 Cubs. Castillo splits the outfielders in left center.
What a big knock, a 2-out hit. When you come up with a 2-base hit with 2 outs and 2 runners in scoring position, that is picking some guys up right now. And the Cubs take that 3-0 lead. It looked like it was just a get-ahead type fastball, something right down the middle, and he just went down and got it. So he was able to yank it into left center field.
Maxwell played that one, and Doug Brocail will come to the mound now to talk to Alex White, who was so close to getting out of the inning with only 1 run scoring, and now Valbuena will be up next.
It has been a tough go. The thing for Alex White that you have to keep in mind is he, like so many of these players, we point to the age, because this is a guy who pitched in college, but still a guy with not a ton of big league experience. He had drafted in 2009. He made his major league debut not long after that. He was up in 2011 with the Cleveland Indians.
He was their minor league pitcher of the year that year.
2012 in Colorado, went 20 starts and went 2-9 and an ERA of 5.51.
226 for Valbuena with 1 homer. And that one is fouled away. Strike 1. Ian Stewart figured to be the 3rd baseman, but he is not healthy. Has a quadriceps injury, and fluid has been drained from that quad, so he opens the season on the disabled list, and Valbuena is the starter tonight at 3rd.
Banged up in that starting rotation as well with Garza and Scott Baker. They're out probably until May.
That's out to Altuve at 2nd, and over to Wallace. And it's a 3-run Cubs first on 3 hits with a man left. Cubs 3, Astros coming up. Presented by TXU. It's Jose Altuve leading it off at second base. Fred Wallace is at first, batting second. The DH is Carlos Pena hitting third. It's Chris Carter in left, Rick Ankiel in right, Justin Maxwell the center fielder. The catcher's Jason Castro with Matt Dominguez at third base and Marwin Gonzalez the shortstop.
The well-traveled veteran, 29-year-old Edwin Jackson gets the start for the Cubbies. Projected to be the number 2 starter in this rotation before the season. Signed a 4-year, $52 million deal. This his 8th major league team. Career 70-71 record. Pitched last year with the Washington Nationals. As you take a look at the numbers here in spring training, 1-2 with an ERA over 4. But Edwin Jackson, he is a guy that the Astros quite familiar with. And again, in Washington last year, for whatever reason, under 500, and that just doesn't cut it in that pitching rotation. Was able to sign that free agent contract at the end of the season. Grew up in Georgia, born in Germany, grew up in Georgia, and he gets the start tonight against the Astros.
And Jeff Samardzija will be their opening day starter. Jackson figures to line up behind him in their 5-man rotation to open the season.
Patchwork it after that, whether it's Feldman or Villanueva. They got Travis Wood that'll probably be the number 3 starter. Came over in that trade from the Cincinnati Reds, being the left-hander to break things up in that rotation.
Jose Altuve has had outstanding numbers this spring, one of the best batting averages in the Grapefruit League. And he's a .359 coming into this game. Takes the first one. There's strike one. He's driven in 5 runs. He has 5 doubles this spring, and he has scored 11 runs. The Astros have had a good offense. They've scored 177 runs. And they've hit 46 homers. Ooh, look at one hit him. Head athletic trainer Nate Lucero comes out as well as Bo Porter, and they check with Altuve, like the left elbow area. That's where he got that.
Right on the elbow.
Oh boy. Yeah, if that swells, he's going to have a tough time bending that. Right on the point of it.
I would be surprised if he stays in the ballgame at this point.
Yeah.
Go ahead and start getting treatment immediately on that.
Just making sure that he doesn't have a broken bone at this point, testing his grip. Take a look at the Cubs defensively while they check with Altuve at first, and here's the way they line up, Kevin.
De Jesus in center field, flanked by Nate Scherholtz. Their right fielder, left fielder is Alfonso Soriano, playing in his 10,000th game here at Minute Maid Park. Seems like he has been here more than a lot of the Astros. Starlin Castro and Darwin Barney, the middle infield. It's Balbuena at third base, and Anthony Rizzo gets the start at first. Wellington Castillo catching Edwin Jackson tonight for the Cubs. So I guess he's going to stay in the ball game. He talked his way back in it.
Yep. He has stolen 2 bases in 4 tries this spring. He's aboard for Brett Wallace. Bo Porter had thought it would be good if Altuve could hit second this year, but there was no other viable option for the leadoff spot, so he's still in that position, as Brett Wallace, with a .283 spring average, is in the number 2 spot, and that's been a trend at the end of spring training. Wallace batting second.
He doesn't strike you as the prototypical number 2 hitter. But, again, necessity the mother of invention. And Brett Wallace, where's the guy? Make the most of his situation. He's just happy to be on a big league club right now and able to have a chance to contribute.
Wallace, one of the options at first base. Carlos Pena is another. Chris Carter's another.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to play out over a 162-game season and how many starts he gets at third base, but I like the way he moved. He's trimmed down considerably since coming to the big leagues. And, the way he played third base, I think his glove has improved immensely. And where he may have a little trouble is being able to judge that when guys start dropping bunts down in front of him.
Right. And they will.
Absolutely.
That pitch inside, snap throw to first. Jeff Luhnow was very complimentary of Brett Wallace's glove work at third base in spring training before the game tonight.
Talked to Adam Everett pretty extensively about him there. And, he said, I looked at him from a standpoint of, why are you standing there? I mean, some stuff is as simple as that. And like Adam told me, he said, guys get to the big leagues and you expect them to know everything. And I look at him and he said, I just stand here because this is where I'm supposed to stand. He said, no, you're not supposed to stand there. You either stand here or stand here. You don't stand in no man's land. And, it's a little stuff like that you're going to see a lot of those type things with a young ball club. Brett Wallace, a new position. He's young at third base when he gets a chance to play over there.
Jeff Luhnow sees him as a strong option on the days when Matt Dominguez is not playing. Altuve has measured a nice size lead. Three balls and a strike. Wallace has made some adjustments and feels better equipped to be able to turn on an inside fastball now, but he just took that pitch. And that's the other way to combat the issue of a pitcher coming in, is to recognize what is a strike and what isn't.
3-1 pitch here. Hitter's count. See if he lets one fly.
Nope. He takes the walk, and it's first and second, nobody out. That's what the Cubs had going in their half of the first inning. And they wound up with a 3 spot. The Astros would love to make this a big frame themselves, with Pena coming up next.
Well, neither starter looking terribly comfortable here at Minute Maid Park tonight, as Edwin Jackson struggling out of the gate. Hoping that one pitch can clean things up in a hurry.
Pena said around the batting cage tonight, we're ready to go. We've had plenty of time. It's been a long spring training, hasn't it?
It really has with the WBC. I mean, Cubs have played 34 preseason games. The Astros have played 33. This is number 34 tonight for the Astros. But that is a ton of spring training baseball. Longer spring training with the WBC, and now it's time to get going on Sunday. The Astros will play the opening game in the big leagues. Remember the good old days when it always opened on the first Tuesday of April in Cincinnati?
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it was that long ago.
No.
Bet you look back, and now it was.
But the spotlight definitely now will be on Minute Maid Park come Sunday night, and that'll be something everybody can enjoy. Our next telecast will be the second game of the season, Tuesday night here. 1 ball, 1 strike. As for Carlos Pena, coming off a year in which he hit 197 with 19 homers, 61 runs batted in for Tampa Bay. A chance at age 34 to reestablish himself. And there's the way Brandon Barnes hit this spring.
Yeah,
Carlos Pena.
You look at Pena against lefties, he obviously struggled, and that's what you're going to be facing right out of the gate. In a situation where plays first base or against a lefty, do you move him down in the lineup? And those are going to be the questions that are going to be somewhat answers were going to be somewhat new to Astros fans, because you don't think about it. You think about the game. It's amazing to me how much you think about the game differently from a National League perspective to an American League perspective. Whereas with the DH, they have a guy playing as a position one day, and against a guy that he might not necessarily fare quite as well, you move him down in the order, but you keep him in the lineup.
That was interesting to see on that graphic. Brandon Barnes, who's had an outstanding spring, but he is viewed as a tremendous defensive asset. So when you talk about a DH, I don't think you're talking about Brandon Barnes, because he has to be kept available to go in and play an outfield position in the late innings, right?
That's why baseball, that's why there's not a head coach in baseball. He's the manager, because he has to manage the game, and those are the decisions that you have to make.
It's rocked to center field. DeJesus back. Towering shot.
Oh, it was hit high.
Both runners tagging. And Wallace will hold and go back. But the lead runner, Altuve, gets to third.
That ball was hit a mile in the air for as far as it was hit.
It was.
About 20 feet short of the track.
Sounded good, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Altuve looking down at that left elbow where he was hit by the pitch.
He's able to move, the importance of that, obviously able to move to third base. Less than 2 outs, and you got the right man for the spot. Nice deep fly ball will put the Astros on the board.
And Chris Carter is quite capable of providing just that. He's hit 4 long balls this spring, and he's driven in 13 with a .250 batting average for Carter, who had excellent production for his playing time in Oakland last year.
Well, Carlos had a look of frustration on his face when he went back to that dugout, and it's not going to take him very long to figure out that you don't hit that ball here.
Right.
That is no man's land. That is dead. Hit it to left, hit it to right, you're good.
436 feet to straightaway center. Carter hit 16 homers for the Oakland A's last year and 218 at bats. That's smacked to center field and way over. It bounces and stays in play. That'll score a couple. Carter in with a 2-run double on a ringing line drive shot. That's his 6th double of the season in the spring, and giving him 15 runs batted in, and it's 3-2 Cubs.
That ball was smoke. Seemed like it never got 20 feet off the ground. It's one hop the wall. The Astros on the board in a hurry. We got a pitcher's duel here, Brownie. 3-2.
Settle in. It could take a while to decide this one. He is one strong hitter, isn't he? That ball just jumped off his bat quickly out to left center field.
A 395-foot line drive.
Altuve scores. Wallace coming home behind him. 3-2 ball game. Kevin Chapman warming up for Houston. And there's ball 1 to Rick Ankiel, who has had a marvelous spring. 432, 4 homers, 10 runs batted in for Rick. Trying to make this a resurgent year for him after an offseason last year in which he hit 228 for Washington.
Look out.
Throw to second. Carter back in. It's a 1-ball, 1-strike count with Castillo gunning that throw down to Starlin Castro.
Man, come on. This is some Grapefruit League game.
That makes it a 1-ball, 2-strike count.
Felt good for Rick Ankiel. Getting an opportunity, and there's a guy that can help you in a lot of different positions. And I talked about him, his arm strength at the corner outfield spot as far as right field is concerned. But he can also go get it. He's a very, very good athlete.
It's a good point. Going back to that throw he made to home plate in the top of the inning, Kevin. A lot of guys don't even think about that because their arm strength isn't that good.
And it was ill-advised. And again, I'm not sure he makes that pull. Makes that decision in a regular season game. But ill-advised, able to show off the arm. But then you want to keep either keep that throw down to where back runner can't advance, or you get it into second base.
Jackson gets a punch out for out number 2.
You know, his bat was what was the impressive thing this spring. Not just only hitting for power. He drove in 10 runs. He had 4 bombs, but he also hit 432.
Justin Maxwell, on the other hand, checks in at 158. He's probably happy about that. That batting average does not matter one iota to him. He has 1 homer and 6 runs batted in. You almost hate to hit 432 in spring training.
Yeah, I was going to say Justin's ready. He says, wipe that one off the chart. Who's going to remember what I hit in the spring of 2013?
And the nice thing about his approach to the spring is that he has not had to worry about making the club or cementing a certain number of playing time because he is the guy in center field for the most part.
Had 9 different players on an opening day roster for the very first time. Yeah, it was neat, Brownie, the way when I was in Kissimmee, I guess it was Monday. Jeff Luhnow called the guys in, and the guys that had made the roster for the very first time. And while a lot of guys, when you get that call, you're thinking that can't be great news. And some of them knew it was coming, but the other ones were just absolutely thrilled. And you could not have wiped a smile off of Jeff Luhnow's face. Yeah. He was really, really happy about that. Let's face it. He spent a lot of time down there telling guys that they aren't coming to Houston with the big club. And he was able to turn that around and give some guys some good news. Brandon Barnes was a guy that I was maybe as much as anybody happy to see make this club.
Yeah, he's a hard-working young player.
9 years in the organization.
2-2 now. That was David Stearns on the other side of Jeff Luhnow, new Astros assistant general manager. And David was explaining the way the Astros are going to do it with their pitching staffs in the minor leagues this year with that shared time for starting pitchers. It really makes sense.
especially when you've acquired as much pitching as they have through the trades.
Exactly. Maxwell's down on strike, so Jackson does get out of the first inning after the Astros pick up 2 runs on 1 hit. They leave a man on. Chris Carter drove in the 2 with a double. It's 3-2 Cubs. It's clear cutting season, and the Dynamos Davis and Bruin will be sharpening their axes when they visit the Portland Timbers. Houston at Portland, Saturday, April 6th at 9:30 p.m. only on Comcast Sportsnet. Your home for your home teams. The Astros go to the bullpen, and time for our call to the bullpen, presented by Gulfgate Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, with lefty Kevin Chapman. He came from the Kansas City Royals in a trade about a year ago, that Jason Bourgeois, Humberto Quintero deal, bringing this 25-year-old lefty from Coral Springs, Florida, who went to the University of Florida, to the Astros organization. Had a solid all-star year in the Texas League for Corpus Christi this spring, 0-1 with a 12.60 ERA. Throws hard. He has good stuff. It's just a matter of harnessing that stuff, and I think we'll probably be seeing him in the big leagues, if not this year, pretty doggone soon, Kevin.
Yeah, he's worked 6 times. This will be his 6th appearance here this spring. You see the ERA up over 12, but in 5 innings of work, he's given up 7 earned runs on 8 hits. So while he throws hard, it has been hittable stuff so far, giving up those 8 hits in 5 innings of work, but now gets a chance early on here in the 2nd inning tonight after a short start tonight for Alex White.
White in 1 inning allowed the Cubs 3 hits and 3 runs, walking 1 and fanning 1. And now it's Darwin Barney, the Gold Glover at second base in the National League last year. Barney takes a look at Chapman's first pitch, and it's ball 1. 242 for Barney, 2 homers, 10 runs batted in for the defensive wizard. You know, as you noted, that high spring training ERA for Kevin Chapman, he's had 3 outstanding outings.
Yeah, it kind of blows up on you in a hurry whenever you get a short, small sample, and that's what it did for Chapman.
In 3 of those outings, he did not give up a hit. 2 of those were 1 inning. The other one, 1 1/3. No hits in any of those. And only 1 walk. So he had 3 outstanding ones and 2 that really killed his ERA. Against the Mets, 3 runs in 1 inning. And against the Mets again, 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning. And nonetheless, he has the stuff to succeed. He reaches the mid-90s at times. 2 balls and a strike to Darwin Barney. And the Astros feel a whole lot better about the depth in their organization than they did a year ago. Kevin Chapman is a part of that, and they feel that they can call on someone from Oklahoma City with much more predictability. Fly ball to center, Maxwell. And Chapman could be one of those lefty relievers. He was one of the guys who had a shot at making this club when spring training opened.
And not just in a situation of the pitching staff, but I think that goes for position players as well. competition to me, it helps from a standpoint. I'm not sure that there's been that much competition. Whenever you're looking over your shoulder a little bit, to me, it makes it a lot easier to stay focused and stay on edge. That can't hurt you in the big leagues.
Deanna Navarro, the veteran catcher, DHing tonight at 283, has 4 homers and 16 batted in. He's 29 years old.
He throws hard, doesn't he?
He does throw hard. Ball 1 to Navarro. Astros, of course, will have Wesley Wright as their mainstay lefty in the bullpen. Xavier Cedeno will be out there to give them 2 lefty relievers.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't Wesley the longest tenured Astro right now?
Yes.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
I think Bud is next.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's Bud Norris. It seems like he was making his major league debut against the Cubs day before yesterday at Wrigley Field.
It does seem that way.
He and Wesley Wright. Wow.
3 balls, no strikes. Now he's ready for his first opening day start on Sunday night. The Astros, by the way, will meet the Cubs during the regular season at Wrigley Field in June in a 3-game series. They'll also play the White Sox in the Windy City.
That's different. It's going to be a different type of season. Obviously a different kind of schedule, and it's going to be this way from here on out. 15 and 15. There's going to be an interleague play game every single day.
That's going to hit some of those teams right away out of the chute.
Somebody's got to.
Yeah. And it will be a totally different feel, won't it, to have interleague play this early in the season?
And it's almost, if you take the designated hitter out of the equation, it's almost as if it's Major League Baseball and not so much of a National League and an American League. Obviously, that's a huge part of the equation. But every day you're going to have the interleague play.
The Angels and the Reds open the season.
Isn't that weird?
Right to left field. Carter watching this one fly over his head and into the seats. Home run for Navarro. And the Cubs lead it 4-2 on his 5th long ball of the spring.
Ball did not take long to exit stage left.
So Deanna Navarro gives the Cubs the long ball. And they are off to a great start in this game offensively with 4 runs on 4 hits.
Look at this line drive. Bring your glove. Ball gets out there. As somebody who spent a lot of time doing pre and post game shows out there, that ball gets there in a hurry.
There's strike 1 to David DeJesus. Hey, Mike Stanton and
Marius Payton.
Marius Payton were on the field for the pregame show. We won't see them again this year, will we, out here?
Boy, are you asking the wrong guy.
I think they'll be in the studio,
no,
Kevin.
They'll be in the studio for the most part. Absolutely. Beautiful studios, too. Top notch.
Well, you had to hustle over here tonight after your show from 5 to 6.
We should tell
quickly.
Before we scare anybody. We should tell. Alan took a fall and he fell down. He is mending. We're making sure he is good to go. That's why I did a couple of the games there in the spring training, and that's why I'm doing tonight's game and helping you out here. Just a space filler right now. And Alan will be back for opening day and be back on Monday as well.
That's a soft fly ball, shallow center field, and that finds a landing zone for a single for DeJesus, and he's 2 for 2 in this game.
Open spots out there right now for Cubs hitters. So it seems. They're finding them, that's for sure.
Rangers and A's in that first homestand, and then the A's are on the first road trip as well, which takes the Astros also to Anaheim, where they meet the Angels, and they have 6 with Seattle in the early going, and then at Boston and the Yankees on that next road trip.
Astros have played in every major league ballpark so far. Well, every city.
Right.
Toronto was the last one, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah, so
they have not played in Target Field in Minnesota
right.
yet.
That's the only one I was thinking about that they had not visited.
They'll cover that one.
Yep.
Starlin Castro. Throw going over to first. And so for the players, it'll take a little getting used to with the new cities on the itinerary.
You know, you get and you look at it versus the National League, and you know San Diego is a great place to visit, but you get Seattle, which is a great place. Anybody and everybody that in traveling parties, they love going there.
It's nice, though, to have that Wrigley Field visit coming up later on this season, too.
Can't go wrong with that. Look at that. There you go. Got their ice cream, little baseball.
Not everybody can go to Florida for spring training, Kevin. Gives the fans a chance to greet the club when it comes home. That's rolled out to short. Gonzalez with the toss. Altuve hangs in, and he does that so well. For the 6-4-3 double play, it's 1 run, 2 hits, and nobody left. The Cubs lead it 4-2.
Lead the Astros 4-2 as we head to the bottom of the second. You're looking at the newly renovated Phillips 66 home run alley located in left center field, of course, celebrating the careers and home runs of guys like Craig Biggio, Jeff Bagwell, Jose Cruz, who I caught taking pictures of himself earlier in front of his little section, and then, of course, Jimmy Wynn, number 24, joins me now, who's spent a lot of time around this Astros organization. What did you think of the renovations of Home Run Alley?
I'll tell you, Judy, the first time I looked at it, I love it. I love the coloring. Of course, blue is my favorite color. You got on a very beautiful dress. And I just love it. And it's just one of the things that the owner wanted to do, and he did one magnificent job.
Well, you can't help but see your face as you walk around this ballpark. There's several photos of you wearing the hat that looks a little like the one the guys are wearing on the field right now. What do you think of them bringing that look back?
Oh, I'm glad they did. Matter of fact, they brought back a little bit of old-time, the coloring and the hats and the jersey. At first, I didn't like it, but it grows on you, and it grew on me, and I love it.
Well, real quick, what do you think of the team Bo Porter has put together this year?
I think he's put together a very nice ball club. The one thing that I'm really concerned about is the pitching staff, and I think that as far as the outfielders and infielders are concerned, I think they got the ability to be a very good ball club.
All right, that's Jimmy Wynn. Thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the game.
Thank you.
All right, Bill.
Hey,
Thanks,
Julia, tell Jimmy Wynn Kevin Eschenthaler wants to borrow that jacket.
I will. It's warm, he said.
Yeah, it looks warm. Glad you're with us this season, Julia.
Thank you.
Making her debut on Comcast Sportsnet Houston. Astros baseball. Jason Castro has had a terrific spring. His knee feels great. He's moving around well, throwing well, and he's hit .341 with 6 homers, 13 runs batted in.
Yeah, that's the key. He's got a foundation, and that's something, that quite frankly he was not healthy at all last year. Was never really completely back from the knee surgery. And you can see it. You don't have to watch him play very long. I mean, you can tell in the batter's box, but you can especially tell behind the plate. His lateral movement is so much better this season than it was a year ago.
All right.
And he's been doing that.
Yes, he has. Clean hit through the middle for Jason, who leads the club in homers this spring with 6. Leadoff single for him here. He got the 3-1 count, knew what to do with it, and he's aboard for Dominguez.
Dropping the head, sending it right back up the middle, and Jason Castro has really been raking this season. Over 340 here in the spring. Well, that ball was tailing down and away as well.
Come on, Matt, get him around.
Former first-round pick out of Stanford. And anytime you've got a first-round guy, there's a lot of potential. And Jason Castro hoping to live up to it this season.
Matt Dominguez takes ball 1 at .271. Matt with 3 homers has 8 runs batted in. He said his family will not be able to make it in from California for the opener, but he'll catch up with them in Anaheim on that first road trip for the Astros. Matt 23 years old.
Came over in the Carlos Lee deal. Thank you, Carlos. Remember, he came right. It was in July, and he came right to the big leagues. Got a chance to play with the Astros a little bit before the All-Star break, and did some nice things. Particularly went back down, came back up in September. How about that?
On through into right field with that inside-out swing. He gets it by Darwin Barney. And it's first and second, nobody out, with Dominguez shooting one through the right side.
That is so strange. I'm looking down at my lineup and wondering, okay, we're in a bunt situation here.
Yeah, right. No pitcher batting. That's what's going to be so different for many fans of National League Baseball in this city as they make the transition. Marwin Gonzalez with a .250 average has a homer and 2 runs batted in. Well, a lot of fans don't like to see bunting anyway, Kevin.
Yeah, I know. Hey, and they're not going to have to worry about it. They'll be happy this year.
Altuve on deck. So different with the American League lineups, obviously, and the way the managers construct them for that number 9 hitter. It's nice if the number 9 hitter can run, because then that kind of gets you a jump start toward the top of the lineup with some people who can run with the 9 and 1 hitters back to back there.
Think of it as 2 leadoff hitters, back to back leadoff hitters, if you will.
Bo Porter, for his career, has been a coach for 3 different National League clubs, so it's a switch for him as well in terms of baseball with the DH.
But played more as an American League player. It was Texas, right? I know he played with the Rangers, but for the most part, so he was an American League player.
True. Bueno over and adjusting and can't get there. Looked like the wind may have taken that one further away from where he was headed. And Marwin Gonzalez gets life with a 1-1 count.
It'll be a learning process for us all.
It will be, won't it?
Yeah, it really will. Just from from a broadcaster standpoint, what's this about Buena? Spring training? Not so much.
Right.
That was lukewarm, to say the least. But I mean, you're going to start seeing teams that, quite frankly, we don't see a whole lot of.
Yes.
Oakland, you don't see a lot of. You don't see a lot of the Royals. You don't see a lot of teams like that. Cleveland.
Right.
Even the teams in the division, Oakland and Seattle.
Yep.
You get a chance to see more of Texas and Anaheim for whatever reason. But a learning process. You remember last year when they had the 6-pitcher no-hitter in Seattle?
Yes.
We were all on the bus. Okay, Kevin Millwood and who?
Yeah, we didn't know.
And these are people that know baseball. There were a lot of people that who are these guys again? Look at this.
That's out to right field. Shearholt's going back on it. Shearholt's at the wall. How about that?
Marwin Gonzalez.
3-run homer for Marwin, and the Astros grab the lead. He got it just over Shearholt's into the right field seats for home run number 2 of the spring.
I wasn't sure for the longest time that Shearholtz didn't have that ball in his glove.
Right. Sometimes outfielders like to deke everybody.
You remember Carlos Beltran did that in one of his first games as an Astro, but boy, that went right down the middle, and Marwin spun on it and hit it out of here.
And it's 5-4 Houston.
Wasn't as close as you looked at it from that angle.
No. The Astros come firing right back. There's Altuve looking at strike one.
There's production out of your 9-hole Brownie.
Yeah, they've done this, as you know, this spring any number of times. They've fallen behind and come storming back. And that's one of Bo Porter's mantras: compete. That's what they've done really well. They're 14-16 with 3 ties. They've scored as many runs as their opponents exactly for the spring coming into this game, and have really put together some nice innings with a lot of power this spring.
When I saw them on Monday, you talked about that. They were down 4-1 going into, I guess it was the 7th inning, and all of a sudden you put together a 5-spot in the blink of an eye, and they were up 6-4. But guys, they're ready to warm up the bus on spring training games once you get late in ball games, and that's not the case, and that may be a byproduct of a young team with guys going out there realizing that, whereas a veteran club, you know what, let's get out of here first pitch swinging. Right. Young clubs like this, they're out there trying to impress and influence people.
It's a good point. Veteran players, for the most part, are just going about their business, not too worried about results. Younger guys, if they have to make a team, are putting a lot into every opportunity. Breaking ball gets Altuve on strikes. Strikeout number 3 for Jackson. Let's look at the power display from the spring.
Well, the Astros, one of the best in Grapefruit League. Only the Atlanta Braves, Seattle Mariners were really the teams that had more home runs. Tied for 3rd in the Major League with 47 homers this spring. But it was a club that played with a lot of power. You know, Florida, you don't think of the altitude, obviously, but the wind does blow out from time to time. That said, it can blow in as well. So that was a true number, especially when you look at the slugging percentage and the 2-base hits, too. That's another thing that factors into this. The Astros had to be very, very pleased with what they saw from an offensive production standpoint this spring.
Wallace goes to a 1-1 count. The Astros have now hit 18 more homers this spring than last year. They have had more games, but the last time they've hit 47 homers or more was in 2002 when they hit 48.
Yeah, it was days of Bagwell, Biggio, and Jeff Kent, and a lot of other guys.
Back in 02, they hit 7 homers from Jeff Bagwell and 7 from Lance Berkman.
That's what it was. Kent was still a year away.
Yep. As a club, the Astros are in the top 5 in slugging percentage. And Wallace swings and misses, is thrown out for out number 2. And they have come into this game leading the Grapefruit League in doubles and 2nd in home runs. So they've had the good power display working.
You know, and it doesn't always, and sometimes it never does. It translates from spring to the regular season. But that said, you know, we've talked about people's struggles in the spring. So why can't you talk about the successes in the spring and hoping that it carries over? If for no other reason, you know, there's not a guy in the big leagues that's not confident, because let's face it, you don't get here without having a little moxie. That said, this is a very young team. And I think that's why with this young team, the start of this season is so very important. Getting off to a good start.
Shift is on for Carlos Pena. There's strike 1 to Carlos.
This was another thing Adam talked about. Adam Everett talked about was when you have this shift. I said, what was it like for a shortstop? You're playing on the second base side of the bag. Because it's the strangest thing in the world. He said the biggest thing is having to make that throw from the outfield. It's a totally different angle, something you're not used to.
Right.
And when Adam Everett says it's strange, you know it is, because he's a guy that can pick it.
1 ball, 1 strike. And I think that's why teams do this throughout spring training, to get the players accustomed to making plays from those unusual positions in the shift.
Now you look at Valbuena, he's playing exactly where a shortstop would be playing. See him there?
Right.
That's your third baseman. Shortstop is there standing by the umpire. Right center field.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Pena. Pena DHing tonight, but he is a good first baseman as well, and Bo Porter feels that he has much more than just a DH in Carlos Pena. That's one thing the Astros visited with Carlos about before they signed him as a free agent, about being flexible enough to play that position. And it's a strikeout of the side by Jackson. 3 runs, 3 hits for the Astros. All 3 coming on the go-ahead homer by Marwin Gonzalez, number 2 of the spring, to make it 5-4 Houston. Lead the Chicago Cubs. We go to inning number 3. Andrea Andrus from the Astros marketing department joining us to talk about all the activities for Sunday and opening day. And there are lots of things that you guys have been planning. Tell us a little bit about it, Andrea.
That's right. In addition to the game, we have a lot of fun before the game even starts. We're going to block off Crawford Street from 1 to 6 p.m. Everyone can come out, friends, family, everyone, and just enjoy. No admission. We'll have inflatables, Orbit, anything you can imagine other than the game will be out on Crawford Street from 1 to 6 before the game.
Maybe even some food out there?
Yes, we'll have food trucks.
Music,
dancing. That's right. We'll have our Budweiser stage. We're doing a Q&A session with players, coaches. Bo, Jeff will be out there. Our radio broadcasters, Robert Ford and Sue Sparks, will be out there.
I need one of those books. I finished the last one.
Okay.
That's saying something for me.
We'll get you a book, Kevin.
Will he get a signed copy?
He'll get a signed copy.
I think I know somebody.
Everybody will get a signed copy on Sunday.
That's right.
So if you're coming out early, there is a lot to do. And a lot of people do like to get here early, Andrea, and get their parking spot all secured and just kind of walk around and enjoy the day, don't they?
That's right. I mean, with the sold-out crowd, parking could get crazy later. So the earlier you get here, the easier it's going to be. You can just set up and relax until the game starts.
Well, it's been a very busy winter around here for you guys, making all the changes in the ballpark, all the adjustments to everything new this year with the move to the American League. Would you say that it's been pretty unusual in that regard, or is it just business, just baseball business?
Just baseball business.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's been a crazy offseason for everyone here on the business ops side of the team. When everyone comes out here on Sunday for opening day, they're just going to see so many changes. The walls are blue and orange now. The signs are all redone. Obviously the new uniforms, the new logo. It's brand new. It's really amazing to see finally.
This sounds crazy, but when did they start painting on the ballpark? Because there's a lot of brick color, the brick and black and sand to change over to blue and orange. There's a lot of little pieces around this ballpark that you got to find to paint. I mean, when did they start with this?
Months ago. I mean, all of off-season, honestly, we've been working on changing everything out.
Everybody walk around with a paint bucket and their own little brush.
That's
just
right.
in case they see something that needs to be touched up. All right.
It's a team effort here.
Rizzo draws the walk. Well, J.J. Watt was out today.
Yes.
And it was J.J. Swat as he was belting balls over the fence in left field. He'll be throwing out that first pitch opening night.
Good. Lyle love it. J.J. Watt swung and missed 13 times today. And then I think he dented the back wall of the stadium here.
Took out his wrath.
Well, we were all excited watching him up from Union Station. All the employees here from our cubicles and our desks peering out. It was definitely interesting seeing a huge football player out there with a baseball bat.
Soriano, the batter, he is a great ambassador, though, for Houston, isn't he? He just got back from an overseas tour with the military troops.
Afghanistan, yeah.
Yeah. Terrific guy, and nice to have him aboard to throw out that first pitch. All the changes include you guys have new offices over there in Union Station, new team store. Diamond level.
Oh, wow. The Diamond Club's amazing for everyone that has opportunity to go down there. It's really, they spent a lot of money down there redoing it, and it's worth every penny. It looks great.
And it's almost double the size it was, right?
Yes, I think it's 16 or 17,000 square feet now, so it's a really big piece there, and it'll be able to be rented out for weddings or what have you also, so okay. It's a multifunctional space.
As for the uniforms, I have not heard anybody say anything even neutral as far as the uniforms are concerned. Everybody loves the uniforms, and it's not one of those things where they're okay. It's not. You don't get that at all. People love the uniforms. What have you heard so far? Because I know, Brownie, you were a part of putting these, not so much putting them together, but at least making decisions on what these uniforms would be. What's been your feedback so far?
Exactly the same as you. It's been positive. Not even neutral. And especially what we're seeing the guys in tonight with the batting practice jerseys that they're actually playing in tonight. That's been everyone's favorite, it seems like. But we're all really excited to have them in their home whites when season actually starts and let the fans see those uniforms as well.
They won't wear those, and they purposefully did that. They will not wear those white uniforms until the first American League game. Right. On Sunday night, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm. And we'll actually have their names on their jerseys. So.
That'll be nice.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Andrea and I were on the committee. What do we have? About 25 people on the committee, right? For the rebranding for the colors. And what I couldn't believe many months ago was that we all actually agreed on colors.
Yes. It's nice when there's an easy decision to be made, which could have been a very complicated one.
I know you're not going to tell me exactly, but did the blue and gold, I know you were looking towards the past.
Dominguez gets in front of it, fires to second. Altuve reaches up, guns it on to first. Nice job by Altuve, who had to reach to the outfield side, and then he still turned a double play, Kevin.
Big time around the horn. And remember, Altuve was hit by a pitch on the elbow earlier in this game, but hanging in there and making that play at second base. And the part about Altuve, you're going up to get that. You don't know how far away that runner is bearing down. A nice stretch as well. Wallace down the first base, on the first base line. I'm not sure if he was ever on the bag, but down the home plate side of the bag.
It looked good, even though he was a little off, it appeared.
All right, so did blue and gold ever come into the conversation? That was part of,
I think it came in the conversation, didn't it?
Last uniform in the dome.
But we all kind of
Yeah.
like the orange.
Stayed with the orange, okay.
I'd say we looked at all of them for sure, though.
And the other thing was, as you see, Shearholz waving at that one for strike one. And I never really thought about this, but somebody said, well, pinstripes are more of an East Coast thing.
Oh.
So the pinstripes are gone.
Pinstripes being gone has also, I think, really made our fans happy, appeased our fans. Houston wasn't very receptive to the pinstripes.
No.
That, I think I'm going up and down the coast. You're right. It's more of an East Coast
I
thing.
never really thought about it, Kevin, but somebody pointed that out, and sometimes we watch this thing every night, and we still miss a lot, don't we?
You're right. Started, obviously, with the Yankees and the most famous of the pinstripes. But think about it. I guess the Rockies probably have a pinstripe uniform at home.
True.
But outside of the West Coast, I really don't see a whole lot other than that.
Well, it's such a clean look now, and we'll see it Sunday night with the whites. And then the orange uniforms will be Friday nights, right, Andrea?
That's right. Every Friday night during this season, we'll have Friday night fireworks. We're calling it Big and Bright Friday night. It's just a great time to bring out the family and see just an amazing fireworks show at the end of every game.
Thanks,
Fridays.
Andrea, for joining us.
Thank you
Good
so
to
much.
see you again. 5-4 Astros.
The orange tie, how about that? Night here in downtown Houston. MLB's opening night comes to Minute Maid Park Sunday, March 31st, when the Astros take on the Texas Rangers at 7:05. Come out early for the Street Fest presented by Champion Energy. With special thanks to Budweiser. Stay after the game for a spectacular fireworks show presented by Marathon Oil. Visit Astros.com or call 877-9-ASTROS to get your tickets now.
That will be such a different feel. Kevin comes Sunday night. It's 7:05 for the first pitch. Or it's 7:10 this year, isn't it? We're starting at 10 after the hour this year.
Oh, you got me on that one.
I think we are.
Well, you get here, you'll be ready. Doesn't matter what time they start. You'll be ready early.
Oh, yeah. Chris Carter leads it off. And he blasted a 2-run double to left center field his first time up. Takes a look at that one for ball one from Edwin Jackson.
Well, Edwin Jackson has been a feast or famine type of pitcher in his career. Guy that threw a no-hitter back in 2010, one of the years of the no-hitters. He was one of 6 no-hitters of that season. But boy, he put it all together. Well, that game against Tampa Bay, June 25th.
Just 29. That's a line drive to right center field. So Carter at a gapper to left center, and now he's got a double to right center field.
Well, that was still very well played by Nate Shearholtz in right field. But that Shearholtz still out there. He got cut that off, and at least made it a play at second base. What a good swing. A little locked in tonight.
Yep, that's Shearholtz, and these have been 2 laser shots off the bat of Carter. That pitch sat right there for the barrel of his bat to send it out quickly. Now Rick Ankiel looks at ball 1. And then Carter could be providing a whole lot of excitement. The Astros think that he could be in that 30 or more home run club this year, Kevin.
Yeah, and he's a guy that obviously with the huge power. That was what, he as advertised.
That's a towering shot from Ankiel to center. DeJesus getting ready for a throw to third. It's going to be a long throw to third. Here's Carter challenging his arm, and he'll make it as the throw drifts offline. And a good time to move up on out number 1.
The question about Chris Carter, and talking with Steve Sparks, and he's talked about how much he has improved defensively as a left fielder in just a little bit of time. He saw him in spring training. He started this spring, and by no means was he a good defensive left fielder. But you know what? If guys are willing to work, they can improve. Because we saw a guy that went from really struggling out there in left field in Carlos Lee, but a guy that went at it every day.
Infielder's in halfway. And strike 1 to Maxwell. Yeah, the Astros have really worked their outfielders hard, I think, this spring, and they've been doing those full-speed drills, Kevin. You saw them when you were in Florida. They're not just putting in the work in a token kind of way. They're throwing hard when they throw.
Yeah, it is a get it done and get off the field mentality. I mean, Bo Porter told us. He told me, I hate when they call it a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a marathon. It's 162 sprints.
Okay.
He said, you're sitting there on the bench. You're not grinding. You're sitting there on the bench. He said, when you get in the box, be ready to go. When you get out on the field, be ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Be locked in. There's no excuses.
New third base coach Dave Tremblay there. That one was in the dirt, but did not give Carter a chance to advance.
There's a story with Dave Tremblay, the first phone call that Bo Porter made when he got the job. Called him up in the middle of the night, said, "We got the job." He said, "What do you mean? It's 3 o'clock in the morning," or whatever the case was.
We got the job. We're going to Houston.
Wasn't Tremblay his manager in the minor leagues?
Yes, a mentor for him. Maxwell's down on strikes.
That's a big punch out right there.
That's number 6 for Jackson. It's been a strange game for him. Join Sports Talk Live. We'll be wrangling up some noteworthy sports guests that have plenty of buzzworthy opinions and play-by-play analysis. You never know who will stop by on Sports Talk Live weekdays at 5 with Kevin.
Hey, there you go.
Now Jason Castro, he singled up the middle and scored in the second inning on the 3-run homer by Marwin Gonzalez.
We can pick a teammate up here.
That's ball 1. Bo Porter met with a large group of media on the Astros bench before batting practice today, and that will be his custom. And he had a lot of TV cameras around, people firing questions at him, people who have not had access to him when he was in Florida. So the Houston-based media really asked a lot of things today of him.
Did you hear what Davey Johnson said about how in spring training, how when they were playing the Nationals, how Bo Porter he'd let him go and basically call the game as the third base coach. And yes. I thought that was unbelievable.
It was.
And guys like that have been around, like the Davey Johnsons of the world, they can get away with that kind of stuff. And, for Bo Porter to be able to just call the game from the third base coach's box.
Yeah.
And that's when he knew he was ready. And during spring games, he would let Bo basically manage the club.
Well, that was great of Davey Johnson to do that,
absolutely.
Obviously.
A lot of guys that, looking over their shoulders wouldn't do something like that, whereas you really talk about a mentor. And rarely said he knew he was ready when he realized how little Bo Porter would ever look over at him to, hey, what do you want to do here? What do you think about what I'm doing here? He said, Bo had a plan, and he stuck with it.
He really he puts a lot of thought into what he does. He's aware of all the statistics, but he also knows the game and knows players, and he really does think things through before he makes his decisions. And he may err on the side of aggressiveness, but with a young team, that probably will play well, Kevin.
Especially with the young team.
Yeah. He does not want to handcuff his players. He doesn't want them thinking about negatives, for instance, when they're running the bases, because he said when you put that thought into their minds, now you're taking away aggressiveness sometimes.
Great point. You know, it becomes a style of play throughout an organization if you can implement that.
Ground ball third. Valbuena across. And in the third inning, it's a leadoff double, but a runner stranded at third for the Astros. After 3, they lead it 5-4.
At Minute Maid Park, 5-4, thanks to a Marwin Gonzalez 3-run home run. And earlier in the broadcast, you guys were talking about Chris Carter, trying to get to know his territory out in left field, new territory, I should say. Well, I can tell you he'll probably know that outfield much sooner than he'll know the city of Houston, as he came over in the offseason, a big piece of that Jed Lowry trade. But the stress doesn't stop for this guy once he made the ball club, as he does not know Houston at all. It's really his first trip here in Houston this week, so he'll have to find a place to live. But judging by the couple of doubles he's had so far tonight, it doesn't look like it's affecting him on the field, Bill.
Not at all, Julia. Well, you can help him. You've been in town for at least a week, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I can show him where the nearest restaurants are around my place. That's about it.
Still never ceases to amaze me. I've been here, you've been here, what, 30 years? I've been here all my life, and there's people that have been here 6 months. They go, well, have you ever been here? No.
Nope.
Have you ever been here? No.
No.
Okay, it makes me feel a little bit better, guys.
That's the question that I get after that is not, have you been there? It's, have you really lived here all your life? Yeah, I really have.
Just the fact that we've been around for a long time, Julia, does not prevent us from getting lost in any given part of the city. No, it's really not the kind of a city you can usually find your way around pretty well. Jose Veras will be charged with that as well, as he joins the Astros this year with that 1-0 record in spring training, a 5.40 ERA. He also has some time away from the Astros in the WBC, pitching for the Dominican Republic. Jose, 32 years old, pitched for Milwaukee last year, signed as a free agent with the Astros in December to become the closer.
Former Pittsburgh Pirate, went over to the Milwaukee Brewers in the Casey McGee deal, and he was your closer to at least to start the season for the Houston Astros.
He signed in '98 with Tampa Bay to begin his career as a Yankee. He pitched for Cleveland Indians, Marlins.
A lot of different stops, a lot of organizations. Texas, Yankees, you said the Yankees. Cleveland, he was there for a little while. His contract was purchased by the Cleveland Indians from New York at one point in his career. That was back in 2009. Like you said, the Marlins, Pirates, Brewers, been around.
He made 72 appearances last year, and 79 the year before that. Durable right-hander. 1-1 to Castillo now. Valbuena and Barney to follow.
And it goes without saying, stuff helps. But when it comes to that closer role, it may be not so much the arm, but what is between the ears and how you are wired. It's a totally different animal. I remember just people talking about it, just meaningless spring training games, starters coming in to close and being nervous about it. It's a different animal. It's almost as if you don't do your job as a starting pitcher, your team loses. But you have chances to win the game. You're that last guy. You're that safety to don't let anybody get behind you. You know what I'm saying? It's a situation where if you fail, your team loses. Get other chances in other positions.
Oh, it's a pleasant night out.
Boy, it is. From a little humid earlier to now much nicer.
Maxwell's over in left center field. And a swing and a miss takes care of the first batter for Veras. Strikeout number 4 for Astros pitching. Make it number 3 for Astros pitching. Kevin Chapman in 2 innings allowed 2 hits and 1 run with 1 walk and 1 strikeout. Valbuena grounded out in the first inning. When the Cubs got 3, they got a 2-run double from Castillo in that frame against the Astros starter Alex White. Darwin Barney's on deck. Last few days before these teams open. And the Astros and Rangers are the only teams in the Major League regular season spotlight on Sunday. Then the other clubs will join in the days to follow. So it'll be one busy week ahead as baseball fans who have been doing their fantasy drafts and just trying to identify what players are with what teams this year finally get to see it unfold, Kevin.
Yeah, it's that split 3-game series to start because, of course, you have to put that snow day in just in case on April 1st.
Yeah.
So it'll be Sunday. The Astros and Rangers get the season underway. Then off on Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, off on Thursday for the Astros. So then the Oakland A's come in for the first weekend series of the season.
Yeah, the players very well know what those days off are like next week because they've been grinding it for 2 weeks now
and
in Florida.
Like she was talking about just a moment ago, is how looking for places, and those are going to be the kind of things that the guys will be doing on off days like that early on in the season.
You bet they will. A lot of young faces there, and the extra players who were brought in who will be heading for their minor league assignments after this series are taking it all in for their first night at Minute Maid Park. And a lot of those guys, we see George Springer down there, and some of the really young players, Delano DeShields Jr., have been here before. Maybe not in uniform, or maybe when they signed, they were brought in, they took batting practice, but they haven't actually been in that dugout for a game before.
And that was the first time I had seen, George Springer, he had come out here, I remember the day he signed. Came on the pregame show and things like that. He took batting practice, and a lot of guys do things like that. But, yeah, you're seeing guys out here that are getting that opportunity for the very first time. And again, I still think, while I've never been in a major league uniform, I would imagine when you play in that big league stadium for the very first time, even if it is an exhibition game, if you will. But that said, still got to be a special thrill.
You know it does. Brandon Barnes on the far right. Full foul. Well, as they take it in, and this is a nice touch too, that the Astros have brought so many young players in for this series for a couple of reasons. One, to rest the guys who have really been grinding it, who are going to open the season here Sunday night, give them probably a day off tomorrow for most. And the second reason would be to expose these guys to what life is like in the big leagues.
Absolutely. And that's a huge part of it. Look at, you saw George Springer pointing up. Hey, look up there. You see, and it's amazing to me, and not necessarily players from foreign countries, but guys that could grow up in the rural part of the United States that have never been to a Major League Baseball game. You always hear tons of stories about guys that say, you know what, first big league game I ever saw was basically the club that I was with.
True.
Well, 2013, a whole new ball game for the Houston Astros, and pro-rated season ticket packages and flexible mini packages are available now. Learn about all the exclusive benefits and pricing, or to visit, go get your ticket packages. Call today at 877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com.
Darwin Barney, the batter now. There's ball one to him. Hit the fly ball to center field, his first time up. Now with Veras in line to be the closer, it's going to be a new look Astros bullpen this year, isn't it? With some faces that were around last year, like Xavier Cedeno, Reiner Cruz, but then some newcomers like Josh Fields.
Yeah, and those are the guys you feel good about. Guys, the Rule 5 guys are getting opportunities and making a big league club, not knowing. And that's where the beauty of this, and I think that's what Astro fans are going to look to this season. Whatever the club does on the field, you're going to be looking at guys that are future parts of this organization. And you're going to have guys in the meantime, like you talked about with Josh Fields, hard-throwing guy, getting his opportunity, and trying to make the most of it.
And being a Rule 5 draft choice, and he has to stay up on the Major League club.
Not going anywhere. That's what Wesley Wright was when he came over from the Dodgers. And that's been, goodness, what was that, 2009, 2007?
I believe it was. We're going to check back to the exact year that he arrived.
It's been a while. 2008. I split the difference. Okay. I said 2007, 2009.
He was a Rule 5 pick in 07, yeah, December of 07. So he got here for the 08 season.
I had it surrounded, Brownie.
And Reiner Cruz last year was a Rule 5 pick.
Is it Tampa?
So yeah, the Astros have been using that vehicle to help stock their club. And then, of course, after the 1 year, the Rule 5 pick can be sent down to the minor leagues. So Reiner Cruz had to make this club totally on his merits this spring, and he did.
Well, that is a, what talking about, he bailed, but he didn't wail.
He buckled.
Yes, he did. Oh, and Barney, I don't think you might see a little fastball on the outside here. Instead, he threw the same pitch.
Maxwell drifting back in center. Takes that one in for out number 2.
I was looking for something low and away after kind of throwing that breaking ball in the inside corner. You would have thought, got him thinking, and now throw something away. Instead, he threw that breaking ball right back in there.
Veras getting in this probably final tune-up. And he comes in the 4th inning while the Cubs regulars are still in the game. That's important. 2 managers here in spring training games use their closer earlier than he would be because of the caliber of hitters he's facing.
Yeah, you look at matchups, right? You want to see him. You want him to face more of a heart of an order rather than possible guy that's a non-roster type guy that's not going to be coming to the big leagues.
Now, Deanna Navarro, the switch hitting catcher, he homered batting right-handed off Kevin Chapman in the 2nd inning. Now from the left side, taking ball 1.
A 29-year-old Venezuelan back in 2012. He didn't play a lot, but played well when he did play for the Cincinnati Reds. Played 24 games. Hit 290. Got that Giovanni Soto look to him.
He does. This one off the mitt of Castro, and it gets by, and he will not make a throw down to second as Valbuena advances.
It had to be a cross-up. You would think it was a cross-up, but usually they go talk about it after a cross-up. Maybe it just didn't break as much as he thought it was going to.
Could be, too. It's ruled a pass ball by the official scorer. Veras not happy with where that one wound up. He has a runner in scoring position with a 2-0 count on Navarro. Navarro was signed in 2000 by the Yankees as a free agent. He's been with several major league teams. Pop back, and it's a 2-ball, 1-strike count.
Make a play. Didn't do it.
You know, so many teams, Kevin, change closers these days. Free agency being what it is.
Well, they're expensive to keep. You never know. Maybe as much as any position, they can change from one season to another. Whether you got your established guys that aren't going anywhere, but for the most part, they're guys that you try to find that guy that gets the job done. And again, it goes back to what I said a moment ago. Not necessarily everybody's wired to do that.
Well, it's been interesting to watch the Detroit Tigers, who gave Bruce Rondon every chance to be their closer, but he failed to make the club. Now they're into a closer by committee start to the season.
When you've got three, you don't have one. Roll the. Well, it's not too unlike what you've got here with the Chicago Cubs,
right?
With Carlos Marmol, and whereas Marmol has a lot of experience doing it, he's not nearly the guy that was around, say, 2 seasons ago, or at least he hasn't had that type of result. But that said, he was a guy that the Astros. Remember how long it would. I think he went a decade without giving up anything to the Astros, or so it seemed.
He sure did. He went years.
Finally got to him.
Well, the Cubs have bolstered their bullpen. They signed a Japanese-born Kyuji Fujikawa, and he's kind of their backup plan, isn't he?
Yeah, well, 12 years in Japan. He was a closer there. So he is, he's the backup plan. That's no doubt about that. You got the idea that, again, competition may get people's attention a little bit. Another pitching coach here with the Cubs, basically he's got a deal with Marmol for every time he shakes the catcher off. He has to buy him a case of wine. He said he only had to buy one during spring training. So I'll call the pitches. Let the catcher call the game. Don't think pitch.
Navarro struck out. Second strikeout of the inning for Veras, and it's no runs, no hits, and a man stranded. It's 5-4 Astros in the fourth.
Top scored early. First batter of the game was Jose Altuve. Lead it off. This is the painful way to get on. Edwin Jackson right on the elbow. He has stayed in the ball game. A couple batters later after a walk. Chris Carter, a line drive to the wall, hit it about 395 feet. That brought in a couple. 3 more come in when Marwin Gonzalez hit his second home run of the spring. That was in the second inning, part of a 3-run second. Carter, one of his 2 hits there, back-to-back doubles to get things started for the Astros, and that is where we stand. The Astros with the lead. A great-looking night for baseball here at Minute Maid Park, and that little guy is fired up and ready.
He is ready and full of energy, isn't he?
That he is. The Astros got 2 in the first, 3 more in the second as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning. And Edwin Jackson facing Matt Dominguez. Dominguez singled and scored back in the second inning. Talked about Matt Dominguez coming over in that Carlos Lee deal. Remember last year, Brownie, talk about a guy that really, what have you done for me lately? He came up in September and took Aroldis Chapman deep, a 3-run home run. The Astros had a come-from-behind win at a time when the Astros really started playing well down the stretch, a chance to finish things up on a positive note. He's a very talented glove man at third base. He and Brandon Laird basically jockeying for that position. Dominguez, a very highly thought of minor leaguer throughout the system there with the Florida Marlins, the Miami Marlins. He was a guy that, well, they found expendable, thought they were still going for it when they got Carlos Lee. If they only knew now, they only knew then what they know now. And obviously, it probably would have changed things up just a little bit.
Well, Bud Norris is with us in the dugout. You remember some of those blasts from Mr. Dominguez last September, don't you, Bud?
Absolutely. The one that really gets me, Brownie, is in Cincinnati. Aroldis Chapman throwing 101, 102, and I think it was a 2-2 fastball. He turned around on it. Man, I think I jumped about 3 feet. So he's got a lot of power. He's got a great swing, and hopefully he takes a lot of strides this year with his game.
Hey, Bud, you're seeing these guys. We were talking about this earlier. I think Wesley's the longest tenured Astro, and I think you're second. Is that right?
Yeah, I think he's got me by a couple days, maybe a month.
There you go. But you're seeing these guys, and I know it wasn't far removed from you having to go through the same thing, but guys, the little things that people don't think about, finding a place to stay, finding a place to live, getting your stuff moved, making sure this is here, this is there, and oh, by the way, you got to pack for a road trip. I mean, there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts going on right now on top of trying to stay in the big leagues.
Yeah, you got your family and friends and, doing tickets and all kinds of stuff. There's a lot that goes with it. Spring training is enough in itself with 7 weeks trying to find a place to stay. But during the season, we got the luxuries of the team, traveling secretary to take care of the flights and the hotels. But it's not easy lifestyle. You're home a week, you're gone a week. Being away from your families is definitely makes it tough, and you work late hours at night, playing 7 o'clock to about 11 o'clock at night. But, it's all worth it for the game we love to play.
Now, what about you and your plans for Sunday? Do you have somebody handling your tickets and all those things so you can just zone in on the ball game?
I'm going to try to get them out of the way tomorrow. The tickets for opening day is always a tough one. You got to bump some from some other guys. They got to transfer them over to your account. But I'll definitely try to get them all in tomorrow so I can just kind of lock in, go through my routine for Sunday, and be ready to go.
Hey, can you give us an idea? I know you don't want to give away too much, but starting pitchers, you guys are weird cats on days you pitch. Something that you go through. Do you go through exactly the same thing every fifth day?
You don't want to say it's exactly the same thing, but it's kind of a routine. You're kind of doing the process to make sure your body's raring to go and everything else. My routine really doesn't start until I get to about the ballpark. I kind of just sit by my locker, do a little more scouting if I feel, go look at some video. But come around, 5:30, I'm getting in the shower. I'm going to start my routine. That's when I kind of get a little more crazy with it. In the shower, make sure I stretch a little bit in the shower, go in the trainer room stretch, have the trainer stretch my arm, make sure I throw my headphones for about 5-10 minutes, kind of get my pump-up songs in. But then when I get out on the field, I make sure I go through my long toss program, a little more stretching out here, throw about good 40 pitches in the bullpen, both from the windup and the stretch, and come in, get a sip of water, say a little prayer or something, and then jump out on the game mound and hope for a good one.
Hey, but Jose Lima used to sit out. I'll never forget watching Jose Lima on the day he was pitching, taking pictures with the Girl Scouts down there, signing autographs, and he was the starting pitcher that night.
Yeah, I think everybody knows Lima. He's quite the character.
What a beauty.
Pretty funny guy. But, I'm trying to get in the moment, trying to really lock in and kind of stay focused because you got to stay focused out there. A lot can happen in a 9-inning ball game, but one pitch can change your day. So you take it one pitch at a time and try to lock in on the catcher's glove.
I had troubles last year with the blisters. Is there something, have you gone through a different routine this offseason, maybe a chance to callus that up a little bit or toughen that up?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of rice bucket. For whatever reason, it dries the skin out so that, when the area gets moist, that's basically when the blisters come around for me. So I've been doing a lot of rice bucket, trying to toughen up that skin, and so far it's been great. So I'm hoping that one carries over and I don't have that problem. I know a lot of pitchers go through it. There's all kinds of remedies out there they talk about. I know Nolan Ryan talk about pickle brine all the time. So there's all kinds of stuff. I've tried a lot, but so far this year, the rice bucket has been a big one for me.
Hey, how'd you get the word that you were going to get the nod on opening day?
It was awesome. Obviously, Skipper and I got to talk this offseason a little bit, and he said we'd go down to camp, and he really hoped that I went and earned it. He wanted me to really go out and earn it. And I know Harold had a great year last year, and I would have felt confident if he got the ball too. But there was a couple last week at camp. He kind of called Harold into the office and told him that he didn't get it, and then he kind of came over and patted me on the leg and said, "Hey, Skip wants to see us." So obviously, I kind of had an idea what it was, and he just congratulated me on having a great camp and just the progress I've made and trying to be a leader for this team, this ball club. And it's going to be a great day. It's something that probably I won't ever forget from my career. It's going to be a big highlight for me and something I can go down the history books for my fame, my name, and my Norris. And pretty excited. So just got to go out there and do what I do.
Here's Altuve. Fights that one off. The count remains at 2-2. Hey, the offense has to be very encouraging, what you've seen this spring. I know the wind blows out a little bit there in Florida from time to time, but that said, they were able to put together some very, very nice numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys have swung the bats well. Really what it is the adjustments they made. They all knew that they're athletic enough and see ball, hit ball, but I think it's just a lot of these guys are taking the time to make the adjustments they need to do in the box, see the counts that they need to be a little more focused about. And I think Maile gets a lot of credit for that, the hitting coach. He's been great. He's got an approach with these guys. He's doing all the research and sitting down and talking with them. So all has been well there. And, hey, I hope for all the runs we can get.
All right, but congratulations on the opening day start. Good luck on Sunday, and we'll all be watching.
Thanks, guys.
All right, the Astros go down 1-2-3. Back in a moment. 5 hits, no errors for the Cubs. 5 runs on 5 hits for the Astros. Astros with a couple of changes as Marwin Gonzalez moves across the diamond. He'll replace Jose Altuve at second base, and Ronnie Cedeno comes into play at shortstop. And that's the defense behind the, well, I say veteran. Yeah, he's a veteran with the Astros. Veteran left-hander Wesley Wright. Wright appearing in 77 games for the Astros a year ago, and he's a guy that's done just a little bit of everything. Good season a year ago, 3.27 ERA in those 77 appearances. And, you know, he's a solid guy that can take care of things, that situational left-hander, but he's done a little bit of everything. He's been a starter. He's been a drop-down guy. He's gone up and down. He's trying to reinvent himself from time to time, done everything the organization has asked him to do.
And I think the asset that he has at this point in his career, Kevin, is his experience. And he has that knowledge of facing the hitters. Of course, there's not as much now going to the American League, but still he has that knowledge and he has that experience.
Jose Veras in 1 inning. No hits, no runs. He struck out a couple. Wesley Wright will face the leadoff man, David DeJesus, who has singled twice. Singled and scored back in the first inning. Singled and was stranded in the second. DeJesus, a veteran that has been around for quite some time. Made his debut in 2003 as a Kansas City Royal. 4th round pick of the Royals back in 2000. Played his college baseball at Rutgers. Popped up on the left side. Cedeno wants it, and he'll have it 1 away.
Jose Veras came in and struck out a couple. He walked 1. Threw the ball around 92, 93 at peak.
Yeah, he's a guy, again, that little wrinkle right there. Something starts off from the heart of the plate. Next thing you know, it's off the plate, and then a off-speed breaking ball as well that he featured. There's Starlin Castro with 1 out here in the 5th. Castro singled and scored in the 1st. Castro, a guy who made his major league debut at the ripe old age of 19 back in 2010. He was a bit of a phenom there. 2012, he had his best offensive year. He hit 283. Struck out 100 times, Brownie. I think that's the thing. 36 walks, 100 Ks. He is an immensely talented young man. And the key word being young. He'll be around for quite some time.
Did you happen to get your new Sports Illustrated and read the baseball preview issue yet?
I've not yet.
Well, Tom Verducci, I believe, wrote the big article, and he mentioned strikeouts and how many more strikeouts there are in the game now. Strikeouts have been going up about 7 years in a row now in the big leagues. And it's not really much of a shame to strike out anymore the way it used to be back in the Mickey Mantle era.
And it's been that way, though, basically for the better part of a decade.
It has.
Yeah.
It has. So it's not a big deal. And there were quotes from managers and coaches saying, well, it's an out, you know. And, of course, there are times when contact is much more helpful than none. But if it's a situation with nobody on base, it is not that big a deal.
Yeah, well, and it's a situation, too, is where you are in the order. And you're talking about contact and moving runners. And if, Starlin Castro is a guy that's going to, for the most part, sit in that number 2 hole. And you talk about being able to move runners in that situation for what you expect to be big RBI guys, and Anthony Rizzo and Soriano. Well, it does become a big deal to strike out a lot.
It can be.
Whether it's moving a runner up or.
But here's, Kevin, the stat in that Sports Illustrated article that was absolutely staggering to me. According to that article, last season in the 8th and 9th innings of Major League games, 31% of the time, the batter made no contact.
That is amazing.
He either walked or he struck out in the 8th and 9th inning of Major League games. 31% of the time, the batter made no contact.
So you think, what is the reason for this? And a lot of different theories. You're looking at guys that obviously you're facing much better as a single to right field. Look at the play at first base.
It was almost an out to right field.
Yes, it was. As Rick Ankiel came up throwing, and, that's one of those ones where got to get down the line, and Starlin Castro knew it, too. He knew that as soon as that ball was off the bat, who he hit it at. One of my favorite stories was, as you watch him comes up throwing. Looking in, yeah, you better get there. And while he's looking at him like, what are you doing? Here's Rizzo with 1 out. Glenn Wilson.
Yep.
And I think I've told you this story. Maybe you've heard it. But Glenn Wilson when he was with the Phillies and the Pirates, and Glenn was always known, guy from right here in the Houston area, Conroe, always known as having one of the great arms in the big leagues when he played. They played on that carpet at Veterans Stadium or at Three Rivers, and he said, I'd throw 5 or 6 people out at first base a season. Mm-hmm. He said one time they were playing the Astros, and Nolan hit a screaming one hop right to him. He says, I would have thrown Nolan out by 8 feet.
Well, he didn't want to get drilled next time off.
He said he came up in that crow hop to throw to first base and just stopped himself. threw the ball into second base.
Yeah.
He thought,
there are repercussions.
We'll let Nolan clog up the bases just a little bit. That's a wild pitch and moves Castro in the scoring position.
I think he does have that type of arm, and the first baseman had better be warned for the Astros that he'd come up firing their way.
I thought, that's probably one of the smarter choices Glenn made that season.
Yeah. Well, we saw him do that a few times, didn't we, from right field?
Oh, yeah. He said especially there, you remember that hard turf that they would play on in the stadiums, the old cookie-cutter stadiums like Veterans Stadium, or he was a Pirate at Three Rivers. And that ball would take that one hop on those summer days, and, he comes in, knows how to play that. It's his right field. And, he throw people out at first. Ball that had to be hit hard, usually on a line. And a guy's not getting down the line very hard.
Right. Usually it's the pitcher.
You put all that together, and again, you pick your spots.
Right.
And he picked the good one with Nolan.
Yes, he did. He wrote about that in his book.
Yes.
And a lot of guys were in his book as far as having been thrown out at first.
Yes, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Wesley Wright working the 2-2 pitch here with one out to Anthony Rizzo. Big left-handed hitting first baseman. That's in there for a strike. Outside corner. And Wesley Wright able to paint that corner and get strike 3. Astros, Dynamos, Rockets, and more. We have all your sports news covered. Check out Sportsnet Central. 7 days a week, 6, 10, and midnight on Comcast Sportsnet. Your home for your home teams. Here's Alfonso Soriano batting with 2 outs. Soriano had the sacrifice back in the first inning and hit into a 5-4-3 double play in the third. This is the final year for Alfonso Soriano, the 37-year-old, the final year of an 8-year, $136 million deal. That was a huge contract, and that was the same offseason, the free agent offseason, in which Alfonso Soriano and Carlos Lee were both in that free agent class.
Good parallel.
Yep. And they both, you could make the deal. And, the Carlos Lee, that's in there for a strike. But the Carlos Lee deal was obviously criticized here in Houston, which was, a 6-year, $12 million deal, or $120 million deal, basically, $20 million a year for that time. But really, the Alfonso Soriano deal was a worse deal than Carlos's.
Oh, yes.
No doubt. And, he had his best season, to Soriano's credit. He had his best season for the most part last year in quite some time. In fact, he drove in a career-high 108 runs back in 2012, hit 262, also hit 32 bombs.
Well, now teams, of course, are revisiting those long-term deals.
And they are. And I think this is what's really going to play out interesting, Brownie, is that while in the previous era, whether you want to call it the steroid era or what, I'm not sure are guys going to be productive into their mid and late 30s, and you're starting to see these deals. The deal that Justin Verlander signed today, the extension, a 5-year extension that won't even kick in until he's 32 years old. Mm-hmm. Now, Posey, a little different deal today. He signed basically an extension that will take him the next 9 seasons in a San Francisco Giants uniform, $167 million or something like that. Posey is a much younger player, or a younger player, I should say, than Justin Verlander.
Right.
And a position player, too, which is different.
Yes, it is. Quite different.
Did you see the line about Verlander, though?
No.
He wants a statue.
Does he?
He says, well, that was one of his teammates. I said, is he going to sign here? He said, yeah, he'll be back. He wants a statue. He wants to be right there by Cobb and Gehringer and K-Line and the rest of those guys. So.
Well, now the pendulum has swung a little bit because more pitchers now are getting the long-term deals. And where it was hitters before, right?
Well, I think you got to pick your spots with that from the standpoint of the pitcher more of a more fragile, more finicky, because the player can reinvent himself. A catcher can't work behind the plate anymore. He can become a third baseman or a first baseman. A pitcher's a pitcher.
The other thing is that the deals are going to younger players now, which makes sense.
Started with Evan Longoria. You remember that?
Yes.
And really the Rays got out in front of that. They realized that he was going to be that type of player. Got a deal on the table for him. That breeds goodwill, I think, between the team and the player. Knowing that, letting the player know, we don't have to do this. But we're going to, because we believe that much in you. That ball's hit on a line. Maxwell able to cut it off from getting in the gap, but he'll go as an RBI single as Starlin Castro comes in to score. And the Cubs tie the game at 5.
And Soriano with a 2-strike swing. And 2 outs in the inning, able to tie this ball game. And Wesley Wright was so close to preserving that lead for another inning.
The second RBI of the game for Alfonso Soriano. This will bring up Nate Shearholtz, who's punched out in both of his at-bats so far. Wesley Wright would like to have that right here. Shearholtz has got that World Series ring from 2010 when he was a member of the San Francisco Giants. Said it earlier, he went in the Hunter Pence deal. Went from San Francisco to Philadelphia. Timing is everything.
He's a good outfielder.
Yes, he's very, very solid. He's not a guy, signed that free agent deal with Chicago this past offseason. Not going to wow you with numbers, but he's a good professional that can fill in and do a lot of different things. 281 hitter in those 24 games here in the spring.
Biggest home run year in the big leagues was 9 and 335 at bats with the Giants in 2011. So it's not that the Cubs are acquiring him for power, but nonetheless, he is a solid player. And in a platoon, if he's platooning with Hairston, that could work out pretty well for them.
Yeah, Scott Hairston on this ball club as well. Hairston, another guy that's been around a lot. And he's another guy, though, a solid player that can help you out. Doesn't get too far over. That's well played by Wally at first. Went down to a knee, made the play, and was able to beat Nate Shearholtz to the bag. So a run on 2 hits. 1 man is left. We are through 4.5. Astros 5, Cubs 5. Right there. Astros and Cubs tied at 5 here at Minute Maid Park, and a gorgeous night here at Minute Maid. Glad the roof was pulled back. It's the way baseball is meant to be played this time of year. As James Russell, the left-hander, comes on for the Chicago Cubs in a 5-5 game. And the guy that grew up here in Texas in the Dallas area, in Colleyville. Veteran on for the Cubs.
Well, he quite frequently is called out of that Cubs bullpen. Russell 1-0 with a 3.12 ERA for 8 games this spring. In a typical season for him, there is a ton of work. Last year he pitched 77 times, and he had a 7-1 record with a 3.25 ERA. Russell, a 14th round pick in 07. His father Jeff pitched for 5 major league clubs, and those are the numbers this spring for James.
I went to the University of Texas, Navarro College. So he has been around Colleyville Heritage High School in Dallas. And again, he is that guy that they're going to go to a lot. A guy that Dale Swaim is not going to be afraid of using. You see the numbers here in the spring. 1-0 with the 3-12. 8 2/3 innings, has given up the 6 hits in those 8 2/3 this spring for the Chicago Cubs. And he will face first man in. Lefty on lefty is Brett Wallace. He walked and scored back in the first inning. And Wally, that 283 average this spring coming in, will be facing a left-hander.
Wallace has hit left-handers pretty well.
He really
in his
has.
Major League time.
Absolutely. Last Sunday, tweaked that shoulder diving back into a bag. I talked to him about that. He said, no problem. Really, it's in there for a strike. Bray starts him up with the breaking ball. He said, if it had been a regular season game, I definitely would have played. Wallace, a guy acquired Anthony Gose. When Gose came over from the Philadelphia Phillies, that was the Hunter Pence deal, right?
Yeah. And Wallace has made some changes in his hitting since last year. His hands are a little bit lower this season, Kevin. And he's been getting very good results this spring.
Not making adjustments. Now they want to climb the ladder. You saw the catcher sat up. Take a look at the difference, and it's pretty distinct. See the hands way up higher last year. You saw that. Looking for better results this season. Right back comebacker, and Russell throws him out easily. Sawed him off in a hurry. So Edwin Jackson, his night is over. Mixed bag for Jackson as he gives up those 5 runs on 5 hits tonight to the Houston Astros.
4 innings, he walked 1 and struck out 9 and hit a batter. That is a mixed bag.
I told you he was feast or famine. I mean, tonight, maybe this game, somewhat of a microcosm of his career. Yeah, he'd come in, he'd mow 3 in a row down. Next thing you know, he gives up a big fly to Marwin Gonzalez.
Now it's Pena against the lefty Russell, and a little preview here for guys like Wallace and Pena, who bat left, if they're in the lineup, and they probably will be Sunday night against the lefty Matt Harrison of the Rangers, and then probably in Game 3 they face a Rangers lefty as well. Derek Holland, we'll have to see if he pitches Game 3, but he might.
Astros will only be able to counter as far as the left-handed pitcher, with Eric Bedard really the only guy scheduled in the Astros starting rotation from that left side. The rotation for the Cubs this year, Samardzija, we talked about Edwin Jackson being the number 2 starter, and then Travis Wood will probably be the number 3 starter. They're still waiting on Matt Garza and Scott Baker to come back. That's a tough pitch on a lefty on lefty.
Yes, it is.
Evens a count at 1-1. Astros fell behind early. The Chicago Cubs scored 3 runs in the first. The Astros came back with 2 in the first. Yonder Navarro with a solo home run in the second. And then the Astros came right back. Marwin Gonzalez, a 3-run homer in the second inning, and that is where we stand right now, 5-5 after the Cubbies tied it up on Alfonso Soriano's second RBI of the game in the 5th. Cubs have out hit Houston 7-5. Tied at 5 on the scoreboard. Here's the 1-2. That's a swing and a miss. Carved up the lefty pretty good right there. That shift, that looked funky whenever Wellington Castillo went to throw the ball around. He starts off with the third baseman.
He wasn't there.
Which is at shortstop.
Yeah.
Tough pitch. Hard to keep that front side closed.
Yes, it is. The well-placed breaking ball. This guy has had 2 terrific at-bats tonight.
Now, doubled to left center on a line. It basically went 395 feet to left center. That was back in the first inning to drive in the Astros' first 2 runs. Then he came right back, went the opposite way, and hit a line drive to the wall to right center field for a 2-base hit. So he's 2 for 2 with 2 doubles. And Chris Carter takes that for a ball. 2-0. Wallace grounded right back to the pitcher. Carlos Pena struck out. First 2 batters of this inning. That ball hammered and foul. Not by much. Watch it again. There's one thing to having doubles These balls are smoked. Stayed right down in it. Good swings by Chris Carter. Here's a 2-1. Got a good cut there. Swung through it. 2-2.
He sure did. Very aggressive with that 2-1 pitch.
And, you know, Brownie, that's the point that I think what you want to teach with a young team is places to be aggressive. And in 2-1 pitch, you like it, let it fly. That's a hitter's count.
You know, the discussion we've had about Jose Altuve, should he walk more? He would like to walk more. But the whole thing is to get a good pitch to hit. He is such a good hitter that it's not going to be disappointing at all if he swings at good pitches.
That's outside. Count full at 3-2. And I'm not sure if a guy like Jose Altuve, I think he is what he is. It's not like he just started being the type of hitter he is once he got to the big leagues. He's been doing that since he was 12 years old, growing up in Venezuela. That one fouled back. Look at this one. That's as close as we're going to get, maybe. That was a Booth over.
Yes, it was.
Steve Sparks should have made that play.
He should have been all over that.
Wow.
Sparky getting reoriented now that he's back in his home ballpark. He and Robert Ford have been broadcasting every game this spring.
That one hit down the line, but foul. He broke his bat on that one.
Your point, though, and it speaks to what Carter's doing here in this at-bat and what's been happening throughout the spring. John Maley, the new hitting coach, working with these hitters, studying a lot of tape, talking about approach. He's talked with them over the phone from home this winter before they got to spring training in Florida about this approach. The idea, get ahead in the count, or if it's on the first pitch, if it's in that zone where the hitter likes it, to be aggressive with it at the proper time, as you said.
That one fouled back. Brandon Barnes waits in the on-deck circle. In the fifth, 5-5. Carter, a guy with outstanding power. He's had a good game today. Acquired it from the A's in the Jed Lowry deal. On with Fernando Rodriguez going over to Oakland.
That was the 10th pitch he saw.
Yep. They worked a walk. That's what you call a quality at bat.
Now Barnes will be hitting for Ankiel. He was 0 for 2.
One of the real feel-good stories of the spring. Brandon Barnes, 9 years in the Astros organization. And a guy that can do a lot of different things. And he is the poster child, if you will, for bring a lot of tools to the office, because he can do a lot of things. He can help you out, particularly defensively, late in ball games. And that may be something with the guy that, he is right behind in Chris Carter. They got a pinch runner as well.
It's like Trevor Crowe.
It is Trevor Crowe. Trevor Crowe has come in to pinch run for Chris Carter. This is when it gets fun. Appreciate you letting me do the play-by-play on these innings.
Oh, there was a motive for that.
I got that right off the bat. Yeah, why don't you do the 4th, 5th, and 6th?
And 7th, 8th, and 9th. Barnes, though, you saw the number on him, 5 homers. That's in 46 at-bats this spring.
That may be the most, that is, without question, not maybe. That's the most surprising number out of them all.
.630 slugging percentage. And he's hit some home runs off tough pitching this spring, too, Kevin.
Yeah. Yanked that one foul. Well, he hit the one off of, it was CC Sabathia. I know the game against the New York Yankees.
That's right.
And, found something to hit and jumped on it.
So, given his tremendous defensive abilities, to add the hitting to that the way he's done this spring, that puts him on this ball club. And we'll see how much playing time he gets, but he certainly has earned his way here.
No doubt. And there's several people that you could put into that category. It wasn't by default. It wasn't because we didn't have a better plan B. Brandon Barnes earned his spot. Rick Ankiel earned his spot. These are guys that went to spring without a job and got one in spring training. There's a 1-1. Swing and a miss. Pulled a string on that one. 1-2.
Kevin, quite often we'll see a player light it up in the spring and then go into an immediate slump come opening day, or vice versa. But if a young club in the Astros situation says we have competition at these various spots on the field, then that pretty much puts the club in the position of having to let the stats or the performances overall dictate who makes the club.
No doubt. And, you know, the eye test obviously is always going to be there. And different variables that, quite frankly, we don't know about. But that said, you know, he's a guy that I know a lot of people felt good about being a part of this club. And again, you look at it, not only a defensive replacement, but he's also a guy that, when you think about it, can get you a bag late in the game in a one-run ball game. You need somebody to go in and steal a base.
True.
And then they can stay in defensively. And here's the pickoff. They got Trevor Crow, and he's out at second. So the lefty with a crafty move, and he's able to pick off Trevor Crow. So the Astros get a walk, but didn't leave a man at all. 5-5. Pitch by pitch presented by Steel Dealers. Wesley Wright versus Alfonso Soriano, lefty on righty. And, you know, carving him up pretty early as he starts something with a little off speed, then comes back with the heater. This is a situation, Brownie, where you may want to stay with what you're doing because Wesley, and this is a veteran hitter as well, who really waits for the pitch to hit, can stay alive in a count. That's why guys like that are around for a long time.
They've made a living off punishing mistakes. We have all kinds of changes for the Astros.
Wow.
We'll look at pitcher number 4, Xavier Cedeno, the other lefty in the bullpen after Wesley Wright worked an inning, and Cedeno comes in with a 1-0 record and a 5.40 ERA. He also performed in the World Baseball Classic for the Puerto Rican team. Yep.
Fifth pitcher of the night for the Astros, and changes. The only two changes that probably weren't made in this was you and me.
Yeah, you got that right.
Everybody else has changed things up. Crow is in left, Springer's in center, Barnes is in right. Martinez is at second base. Laird is playing third now. You get all that? You still got Castro behind the plate?
No, we haven't changed behind the plate as well.
That Corporon. Carlos Corporon behind the plate. One thing we do know for sure, Wellington Castillo is facing Xavier Cedeno. And that's another thing, too, that I think that the last week of spring training camp was something, people think about starting rotations and who's going to be that fourth starter and who's going to be that fifth starter. You also, with the WBC and a guy like Cedeno, you got to get guys. There's a comebacker right back through the box and able to throw him out, so Castillo is out one away. But you got to look at also, Brownie, how you're going to handle your your bullpen and how your relievers and guys making sure that they're ready to go, because you're going to use relievers on back-to-back days, and you have so many pitchers in camp. Sometimes it's hard to get guys that type of work and get them ready to go. When opening day comes around.
Yes, it is, and Bo Porter's had a lot to look at as he has learned the organization this spring. So he has to decide for himself, all right, which lefty do I use in which situation in a game? Who's first out of the bullpen? Do I bring in Cedeno with men on base? Do I bring in Wright with men on base? Which guy do I save? Which guy's arm bounces back the next day if I use him tonight? That kind of thing.
Yeah, the key word, knowing your personnel. And the only way you're going to know them is by, again, spending time around. And that may be the benefit. The Astros may benefit from a longer spring training if that's the case.
That's a good point. I think it probably did help the Astros organization to have more games for Bo Porter and his coaching staff.
Luis Valbuena, the 224 hitter in the spring. And Valbuena grounded out back in the first inning. He walked, advanced as far as second base in the fourth, but was stranded there. One away here in the fifth. That ball is cracked, and will it get into the gap? And it will. Trevor Crowe chasing that one all the way to the field wall in right center field. Valbuena on his way to third base without a throw. That ball was cracked.
It really was. It was hit to that huge part of the ballpark, right center field. Right fielder playing shallow. And George Springer in center was trying to get there as well. Brandon Barnes hustling for it, but that was just a perfect spot for Valbuena to hit it for a triple.
I said Crow, that's Barnes in right field now, I see. Got it in as fast as he could, but now the Cubs in a tie game with a runner at third and less than 2 outs. Exhibition game, but he was running out of the box. Darwin Barney in his third at bat and probably his last at bat. He's flied out to center field in both of his plate appearances so far. Scott Harrison waits on deck for Dale Swaim's ball club. Chicago Cubs open the season at PNC Park. They're going to Atlanta after that. Samardzija goes against A.J. Burnett. They'll open the season on Monday.
Now that Pirate Club has been hard to figure the last couple of years with good first halves of the season and then collapsing in the second half both of the last 2 years.
Have you been following it? I was curious. Jamison tie on that with the infield pulled in. Good piece of hitting by Darwin Barney. And that brings in the lead run. So Luis Valbuena, who tripled, scores on Darwin Barney's RBI single.
Yeah, Jameson Taillon pitched very well in that WBC game.
So Scott Harrison, veteran, will get an at-bat here. Not a whole lot you can do about that with the pulled-in infield. Well, Harrison, his fifth team, signed as a free agent back in February, was in New York with the Mets a year ago and put together a good season with the New York Mets.
He really did.
Yep. Played 134 games. I think that was a career high. If it wasn't a career high, it was really close to it for Scott Harrison.
He hit 20 homers and 377 at bats. A 504 slugging percentage.
Yeah, he hit 263 for the season. That was a Mets club that struggled, obviously. But some guys were able to take advantage of that situation. Harrison was certainly one of them. Had some injuries and some holes to fill. Harrison, longtime San Diego Padre. He's been around.
Well, the entire Hairston family has been around the major league scene for a long time.
Dad Jerry, brother Jerry Jr. Uncle, he had an uncle that played in the big leagues as well.
Grandfather.
Yep.
1 ball, 1 strike. Scott's from Fort Worth.
Batting for Deanna Navarro here in the 9th spot in the order. Harrison, a guy that they talk about veteran presence with a young team or a rebuilding team, if you will, and Harrison's one of those types of guys. And that was an off-speed pitch. Able to foul that one off. Count goes to 1-2. Cubs got a 1-out triple from Luis Valbuena. Darwin Barney with a pulled-in infield was able to muscle one out. RBI single, and it is 6-5 Chicago.
Thing that is different, of course, there are many things that are different. Spring training games compared to regular season games, but often a lefty like this will be left in for a full inning.
misses outside. 2-2. Yeah, and again, you go back to matchups and things like that. And that's what you'll see in games like this, is where you might see Bo Porter or Doug Brocail wanting to see him work against a certain guy, or certain side guys coming up from different sides of the plate.
Well, Bo wants multiple inning relievers too this year.
That's inside. Backed him off a bit. 2-2.
More than just the long man we talked about earlier, who will be Alex White to start the season. He would like to have relievers who can go a couple of innings sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's where a guy that didn't make the club out of spring, but certainly, caught the eye of some people, not only last year, but is Edgar Gonzalez, but what he was able to do this spring. And again, versatile. A guy that can come in, start a game for you. Barmy hits that one right at Cedeno, flips it and fires, and the double play, 6-4-3. Down go the Cubs, but not before they get a run on 2 hits. After 5.5, it's 6-5 Chicago.
Miss your chance to purchase 2013 Astros regular season tickets. Tickets for individual games, including opening night, are on sale now. For information on all the biggest games or to get your tickets now, call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com. Beautiful downtown Houston.
Yep. Kyuji Fujikawa. Fujikawa comes in to pitch now for the Chicago Cubs. I'm curious. When this inning started, when we came back, Fujikawa had his interpreter out on the mound. So that would be considered a visit in a regular season game, would it not?
Yes.
So that is something, obviously, they're going to have to figure out before he goes out there.
Well, in fact, the interpreter wouldn't even be allowed on the field
That's true.
during a regular season game. So I'm not sure what that's all about, Kevin.
Fujikawa spent 12 seasons in Japan. He's a veteran. He spent that time as a closer there in Japan. He's not going to compete with Carlos Marmol for the closer's job, but certainly if Marmol were to falter or get off to a slow start, Fujikawa would be definitely plan B. See the numbers he's been able to put up this spring. 7 hits in 7 innings of work.
Well, you talked earlier about the numbers he put up in Japan. Quite impressive.
He's a veteran, not a young guy, but a guy trying to make his mark here in the big leagues.
32 years old. 220 saves in Japanese baseball. He signed a 2-year deal for $9.5 million to join the Cubs in December. And he's been extremely reliable. He had an ERA in Japan of 1.77 for Henshin.
Well, Brandon Barnes will lead it off. Barnes came in and he was in the on-deck circle last inning. When the pickoff of Trevor Crow was picked off. And Barnes shoots that one down the right side. If this stays fair, he's going to run for a while, but instead, I was watching. You don't want so much watch the baseball as much as you watch the runner. Usually that guy knows as well as anybody, and Barnes was getting after it down the line. I don't think he thought that ball was going to banana quite as much as it did.
He's a hustling player, isn't he? Fujikawa, of course, could be the setup man for Marmol, and that would make the Cubs into a kind of a co-closer situation. Quite often the 8th inning is more difficult than the 9th in terms of the batters faced. So that might work out pretty well for Dale Swaim. 1 ball, 1 strike for Barnes. Barnes, as Kevin mentioned, has really had to stick with it in his career. He hit 197 at Oklahoma City in 2011 for 229 at bats. Had good numbers at Corpus Christi that year, Double-A.
Could get rid of him, and that's a good off-speed pitch. Able to stay alive.
Yes, it was. That was a very slow pitch.
And that's the thing. It's not so much about swinging and missing that, but getting a guy out off balance and out in front of that pitch. And that's where Barnes was way off balance. If you hit that, you're not going to have a whole lot behind it.
Reiner Cruz warming up for Houston in the bullpen. George Springer on deck.
Here's the 1-2. This is where it gets fun with the lack of names on the backs of the jerseys. And not everybody on the roster. It's a big league roster. There's a lot of guys that are going to be heading off to their minor league assignments after tomorrow's game. And speaking of tomorrow's game, that's one you're going to check out. It's a 1 o'clock first pitch here at Minute Maid Park. But in that ball game, Brad Peacock gets the start. But a guy that I am really looking forward to seeing pitch tomorrow is Mike Foltynewicz.
Yep. He's
scheduled to work tomorrow. Barnes fights that one off. Count holds it 2-2. But Mike Foltynewicz, talking with some of the people down in the spring, they say he had as good a stuff as anybody they saw at spring training.
That'll be a chance for the fans to look into the future.
Yep. Carlos Correa, #1 pick from a year ago.
Foltynewicz was the minor league pitcher of the year for the Astros last year.
Was he the Delino DeShields trade? Draft. I believe he was that same time. Quasneco was in that draft. That was a swing and a miss. 1 away as Brandon Barnes goes down swinging. And that'll be George Springer, Astros #1 pick as well from 2 years ago.
George from the University of Connecticut hit 2 home runs in 1 game against the Toronto Blue Jays on the road this spring. And last year, 22 homers at Lancaster. And in spring training this season, 4 for 12 with a couple of home runs.
Guys that have done their time in college, you expect them to get to the big leagues faster. I love his tools. There's a swing and a miss. 0-1. Cubbies lead at 6-5, but George Springer, like you said, UConn. And it didn't take the Astros long to realize they loved his skill set. Center fielder that can really go get it. That's inside, got away from catcher at 1-1. Wellington Castillo looked like, I don't know if he thought that was going to be a breaking ball. And you wonder if there's going to be a communications problem between the two.
Yes. Wonder what the interpreter was telling him. Work fast and throw strikes.
I don't know. I mean, at some point you got to be thinking, one's a fastball, 2. What do you want to do with it? Let's go. Let's have a plan, boys, and go to work.
And the interpreter did not go to the catcher after he went to the pitcher.
Well,
that could be troublesome.
And you wonder how much English Castillo speaks. So you may be translating from Spanish to Japanese. That's in there. A little inside. It's 2 balls and a strike.
Yeah, that one just kind of floated up there. #3 prospect is ranked by Baseball America. And the prospect list for the Astros has certainly changed in a major way since a year ago.
Singleton, Correa at the top of that, depending on which one you're looking at, as to who's #1, who's #2. George Springer right there in that mix as well. Jared Cosart in that mix. Again, this is what's going to be the beauty of watching Astros baseball this season. It's going to be seeing guys that are going to be coming up to the big leagues and getting their first taste, and guys that are going to be around and be a part of an organization for a very long time. And you were there when a guy like Craig Biggio came up, or a guy like Jeff Bagwell came over.
Well, it wouldn't be totally shocking to see George Springer at some point later this season, perhaps September. That would be quick, but he is a college player. He will be 24 in September. So he will dictate whether he's here or not, Kevin.
Absolutely. It's a matter of you're looking at guys in a position, Justin Maxwell, a guy in center field, holding down that position for now. Keep a close eye on him. Here's Carlos Corporon. I told the story the other day when we were We were in Milwaukee, and I saw the guy in the stands in the Carlos Corcoran white Brewers jersey. And I looked back at the game log, and Carlos Corcoran never played a home game as a Milwaukee Brewer. So that guy wore that jersey more than Carlos Corcoran ever did.
Oh, interesting.
1-0. Brandon Barnes struck out to start the inning. George Springer drew a walk. And Carlos Corcoran, well, the catching position, Brownie, from an offensive standpoint, has just been outstanding this spring.
It is worlds better than it was a year ago. There is no doubt. The way Castro's knee now has come all the way back from his surgery a couple of years ago. The way Corcoran has worked so hard and progressed. He's throwing well. He's better at blocking pitches in the dirt. So is Castro. And he's hit well this spring. You saw the numbers a moment ago, and they're good numbers.
Now Brandon Laird waits on deck. Fujikawa on in the inning. Well, he's got quick feet. That was Bud Norris-like.
Yes.
Just again. Just sent a notice on the scouting report.
You better did.
Keep an eye on him.
Springer can run. Looks like he might be judging this as an opportunity, but he does not have that big a lead.
Corcoran fouls that one off. 6-5. Cubs on top. I've hit the Astros 9-5. Alex White got the start tonight for the Astros. Didn't go great for him. Pitched only one inning. Edwin Jackson was the starter for the Chicago Cubs tonight. He went 4 innings in this ballgame. Here's the 1-1. Corcoran fouling that one off. Down to the count 1-2. The numbers on George Springer. You talked about him, his ability to run, and what he was able to do between Class A Lancaster last year and Round Rock. I beg your pardon, and Corpus Christi, Double A. There's 32 stolen bases.
The Lancaster numbers for a hitter are always difficult to digest.
Yeah, and whether it's the numbers, it's just a strange league. We were talking about that, whether it was Adam or whether it was Jeff Blum over the weekend. Was just that the wind was blowing 35 miles an hour in Florida. And he said, this is what the wind is like from what I understand in Lancaster.
Right.
And Adam Everett will be a minor league roving infield instructor. So he'll get a chance to visit all these different places and really get an idea of what's going on with some of these young players. And Adam Everett, obviously a very good defensive player for the Astros in his tenure here. A swing and a miss for Corcoran. He goes down. It's 2 away. As Brandon Laird comes to the plate. Laird, if there was any guy that had to be disappointed, Laird probably knew the situation. But that said, he put up huge numbers in the spring. Laird hit .328 in the spring. So that's at the point where you say to yourself, what more could I do? I did everything you asked me to do. The next thing we're going to ask you to do is go down to the minor leagues and continue to do what you're doing. Well,
I asked him about that tonight around the batting cage, and he said exactly that, Kevin. He said, I feel I did everything I could do.
Well, sometimes, it doesn't work. It's just not enough at that point. But the thing is, you're always in that situation where you can send a message to those who are watching. And that's the beauty of spring training, is you've got guys out there, and they got major league eyes on all the different players who obviously want major league jobs. That's high a ball.
Bull Porter and Jeff Luhnow talked many times about Laird and what good at-bats he had. And it seemed at one point, not all that long ago, that he was ticketed for a spot as maybe a late-inning pinch hitter, one of those guys who could come to the plate against some of the top throwers in Major League Baseball and do a nice job with an at-bat. Well, Brandon Barnes is more versatile. And, they've got the shortstop situation with Gonzalez and Cedeno. We didn't know which way that was going to shake out for a while. It was Tyler Green, but all along it appeared that there would be 2 guys sharing shortstop.
Laird, you talked about Rule 5 guys and the route that the Astros have taken to claim guys in the Rule 5 draft. Brandon Laird is a guy that, really hit in the Yankees organization. And they tried to put him through waivers, and the Astros claimed him off of waivers from the New York Yankees. That was fouled off on the right side.
Well, I asked him what the plan would be for him at Oklahoma City, and he said, probably first base, third base. In other words, he is part of the depth of the Astros right now, so his job is to keep himself ready to fill in at either corner infield spots, maybe even play a little outfield in case he might be needed there. And it's a difficult time of year for a guy like Brandon Laird, who's had such a good spring, but he's headed for AAA.
And you wonder, too, if he can, rely on his big brother to tell him, you know what, just keep doing what you're doing. Yep. You'll be fine. And his brother Gerald Laird, a long time big league backstop, Texas and Detroit, different places, had many different stops, but he was a consummate veteran.
There's another good trip to the plate. He draws a walk.
And now 2 on. The Astros got something shaking here.
Dale Swaim's going to make a move right here to his bullpen. Bo talking about the group of players who are leaving spring training here to compete, give it their best effort. Somebody was asking him before the game today in his session with the media about everything negative that had been said and written about the Astros this year. And Bo said, well, what do you mean negative?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I mean negative from the outside. In other words, the media and what they're writing and what fans are saying. What do you think about that? He said the outside doesn't exist in our clubhouse.
Block out the noise. Yep. Is that basically that was the message? All right, so we got a pitching change. We'll take a break. Tell you who the new pitcher is. We come back. 6-5 Cubs. Outs in the 6th inning. Astros big and bright Friday nights are the perfect combination of baseball and family fun. Each Friday night game is followed by a spectacular fireworks show presented by Marathon Oil. Be there for the first big and bright Friday night of the season. That's April 5th, including a T-shirt giveaway for the first 10,000 fans by Waste Management. Call 877-9-ASTROS or visit Astros.com to get your tickets today. Brand spanking new pitcher Blake Parker comes in for the Chicago Cubs. He'll face Jose Martinez, getting his first at-bat of the game. Martinez came in that defensive replacement, playing second base. Eighth appearance of the spring for Blake Parker.
He's from Fayetteville, Arkansas.
I saw that yesterday, the Chicago Cubs in Mesa. By the way, they're playing their last year in their old digs there in Mesa. They'll be moving on down the road to a brand new stadium in Mesa, Arizona. But played the Seattle Mariners yesterday in their final game of Cactus League. You know, they must have used 24 position players in that ball game, so I think they're going for that record tonight because they're working some guys in and out.
Oh.
Parker, another pitcher working this one today, and that one hit right at second baseman Barney, and he throws him out. So the Astros leave a pair in the sixth. It's 6-5 Cubs.
Five ball game. The Cubs lead the Astros. The Rockets playoff push takes a detour through Lob City and a potential first-round preview against Blake Griffin and the LA Clippers tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Comcast Sports Net.
Rockets lost tonight 103-94 here on CSN to the Memphis Grizzlies. But tomorrow night that sets up a big one with Blake Griffin and the Clips as they come to town starting at 7 o'clock, 6:30 for Rockets pregame live. Just take a look at the numbers right now. The Rockets still with that 2.5 game lead on the Los Angeles Lakers for the 8th seed in the West. Utah Jazz, Dallas Mavericks hanging right there as well. Rockets still a game and a half back of Golden State, looking to make up some ground on the Warriors and get into that 6th seed. That would be the place that they would want to be. And that would be a preview of the tomorrow night's game, would be a preview of the first round playoff matchup if they could do that, but they could take on the Los Angeles Clippers.
Reiner Cruz comes out of the bullpen, and he's pitcher number 6 for the Astros in 7 2/3 innings. He's allowed 5 hits, walking 2 and striking out 5 with a 1.17 ERA and an 0-1 record this spring. Last 4 outings, scoreless baseball for Reiner Cruz this spring.
David DeJesus will lead it off. DeJesus 2 for 3 in the game. A couple of singles back in the first and in the second inning. Cubs scored 3 in the first, another run in the second, and single runs in the 5th and the 6th. They lead the Astros 6-5. DeJesus, veteran's been around for a while. Solid player. Reiner Cruz delivers. Now, Cruz is another one of these guys. You talk about power arms, a guy that can get it up there. Cruz and Cedeno both. He's trying to set the table. That misses high and away. Cruz really finding a hard time finding the strike zone right now. That one wasn't even close, and it's 3-0.
Reiner last year pitched 52 times. He had an ERA of 6.05. So that necessitated a good spring for him to make this club. You saw the numbers. They've been solid for him this spring. But now the competition continues.
That's in there for a strike. Yeah, this competition never quits. And you know, I talked about that earlier, is competition. And that's when you start to get a little bit of depth. And you get competition at different positions. It seemed like there were some guys last year that, you know, whatever the case may have been, and for whatever reasons, maybe weren't pushed for the jobs early on in the season like they are this year.
I think you bring up a very valid point, Kevin, and that is that there is more depth in the Astros organization this season. And there is the potential here for a lot more moves between AAA and the majors if players in the major leagues are faltering.
And don't think for a second that guys in the big leagues don't know who are down in the minor leagues just waiting for that opportunity and a chance to get a job. Here's 3-2 to DeJesus. That one hit high to center field. George Springer made that one look easy. We've seen some high fly balls in this game tonight.
Yes.
That ball, as it does this time of year, basically blowing from the right field foul pole straight out towards the Sitco side.
And when it gets above the railroad track level, the wind can have more of an effect on a fly ball like that, as you can see with those flags.
Well, one away for Starlin Castro here in the 7th. Cubbies leading at 6-5. Rizzo waits on deck. Castro 2 for 3. Scored a couple of runs. Singled back in the first and scored. Singled in the 5th and came around to score on Alfonso Soriano's 2-out RBI single. And that's been the difference in this ballgame.
Kevin, we got a note tonight on Fernando Martinez, the Astros outfielder. He was scratched from the lineup yesterday with a strained oblique.
Was it the oblique or was it the lower back?
Well, now they feel it's the oblique. And he was examined by a doctor this evening. He will be reevaluated on Saturday. There's a chance he could open on the disabled list on Sunday.
And that's where you start wondering who does make that, who fills that spot. J.D. Martinez is on the 40-man roster. A guy like Trevor Crowe is not. And those are all decisions that have to be made.
Very much so.
But it all starts, the first domino is Fernando Martinez. That's high for a ball, 1-2.
So the question becoming, can he nurse that injury and stay active? Or would it be better to let him heal completely and put another player on the 25-man opening day roster?
Well, the ultimate answer starts with Fernando Martinez, because nobody knows what Fernando Martinez can do but Fernando Martinez. Yeah, Orbit having some fun tonight. A swing and a miss. A little high cheese right there. Or should it be queso? It's Reiner Cruz pumping it in there.
You see where this is. It's quite a bit higher than the target, but nonetheless, if it's up there, very hard for a hitter to do much with it.
Yeah, and Starlin Castro is that guy that those eyes can get big. They throw a ball up in there. This is a guy I'm not sure you want to do that with, Anthony Rizzo. Catches up with it, he'll hit it a long way.
Good-looking player, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He is.
Nice first baseman, too, with the glove.
What was he, a 7th-round pick? So not a real high draft pick in the Boston organization, but still a guy that has risen through the ranks quickly. And, it's that name, too, Rizzo. So he's the kind of guy you've heard about for a long, long time, even when he was in the low minor leagues with the Boston Red Sox. A lot of potential. That ball is cracked. It gives you an idea. I am glad nobody was sitting up there, because that ball was stung.
You know, Rizzo hit 26 homers at Iowa and 257 at-bats, 15 more with the Cubs, so that's 38 home runs in professional baseball for him last year. He could have been the Rookie of the Year had he not spent the first 3 months at AAA last year.
Yeah, he came up shortly before we got, I think maybe the second or third series he played in the big leagues was at Wrigley Field, and the Astros were there, and that ball looked too much top hand as well. But good night. Get out of the way down there.
He came up in late June, and his credentials, even though you mentioned it was a modest 6th-round draft choice in 07 that the Red Sox used on Rizzo, his credentials had been built up during his minor league time.
Now you're wondering, and that's where the mind games start to play. Reiner Cruz is thinking, okay, well, he's jumped over 2 in a row. Something I can pull a string and he'll be out in front of it. Let's see what he does here. 1-2 pitch. Didn't give in, that's for sure. Rizzo stays alive. In the 7th, Reiner Cruz, I stopped counting. Is that the 7th pitcher of the night tonight for the Astros? Sixth or 7th?
Number 6. It's been a parade, hasn't it?
I didn't stop counting.
No.
Started with Alex White. He worked an inning. Gave up those 3 runs in that first. That ball hit right back up the middle. And George Springer makes the play. That had single written all over it. George Springer, a good defense. 6-5 Cubs.
And we talked about the crowded dugout earlier. Bill and Kevin mentioned it. They probably restocked on sunflower seeds by now, and that's because of all the extra guys that they're carrying with them for these exhibition games, including prospects like Jonathan Singleton and Carlos Correa. They're with the team one more day, and they're taking it very seriously. Correa has produced a couple of runs in 7 at-bats, and stole a couple of bases as well, showing off his speed. As far as Singleton goes, another nice night last night at the plate. He hit 2 out of the park, and then, of course, the bases loaded triple in a win over the Nationals earlier this week. He's hit 300 through 5 games with a .417 on base percentage. I think it's safe to say they're getting the most out of this limited opportunity they have.
Well, it goes without saying, yeah, that was a ball that was hit against the Washington Nationals that was just absolutely crushed. You're talking about Denard Span, a good defensive center fielder that had no clue. That ball was hit so hard right at him. Went over his head. That was a bases-loaded triple. Tied the game. The Astros went on to win that game against the Washington Nationals. Here's Ronnie Cedeno to lead it off against Parker in the bottom of the 7th. Cedeno 325. We talked about released by the St. Louis Cardinals last Sunday morning. The Astros picked him up immediately. Was he released and signed the same day?
I think it was the next day.
Yeah, next day. So Saturday he was released by the Cardinals. That's strike 3. Sunday picked up by the Astros. So did not take long for Ronnie Cedeno to find work. He's down on strikes and 1 away. Here is Jonathan Singleton. He is a big man that hits a baseball a long way. Singleton, another guy acquired in a trade. The guy that, the Philadelphia Phillies, boy, they were really hesitant to give up. 25th overall by Baseball America as he's ranked as a prospect in the minor league system. Jonathan Singleton, as we talked about, he'll serve a 50-game suspension to start the season. Interesting talking with Jeff Luhnow about that. He said, from the very beginning, he owned up to the mistakes he had made. And who hasn't made mistakes at that age? And they said, let's go on from here. It's not what you've done, it's what you're going to do and learn from it. And Jonathan Singleton said, I'll accept it. We will move on, and I'll be a better person for it.
Well, the scouting report on him says he has very good balance and rhythm at the plate. Swing is simple and compact.
That's in there for a strike on the outside corner.
It's a good pitch not to swing at, Kevin.
That's the plate discipline. You know, working counts into situations at 2-0, and that's just it. You're ahead in the count. It's your count to do with the pitch that you want to do. I mean, you wait for a pitcher, rather than a pitcher's pitch, you're waiting on a hitter's pitch.
Well, that's a tough call.
Man, that evens the count.
It changes everything, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Instead of 3-1, it's 2-2 now. Singleton hit 21 homers at Corpus Christi and 461 at bats last year.
That's in there for strike 3 call.
Blake Parker made some pitches, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And got the benefit on the pitch that took the count to 2-2 as we take a look at that last sequence through our pitch-by-pitch presented by Steel Dealers. Parker dealing here, working away, changing things up, staying away on Singleton with good reason. It seemed like everything he was throwing, Brownie, was darting to the outside.
Yes, it did. And then put one right in at the knees.
Again, the benefit of that call that got him back in the count at 2-2 was huge against a guy like Jonathan Singleton.
Well, nonetheless, he's drawing rave reviews for his bat work. Here's J.D. Martinez now.
Yep, J.D., of course, started the season in the big leagues a year ago with the Astros. Swings through that one. He will more than likely, barring Fernando Martinez going on the disabled list, start the season at Oklahoma City. That's the plan, at least for now. That could change here in the next 24 hours. J.D. Martinez, the highlight of the season, the native of Miami, the first home run ever at Marlins Park, the new ballpark there in Miami. Had to be a great thrill for him. I talked to him about that. He said he never got the baseball bat. Wasn't sure if the Marlins ever got the baseball. I don't know what else you would do with it. Here's the 1-2. It's fouled off down the right side. I mean, it can't be worth or can't really mean anything to the person who caught it. You make your deal, you say, okay, you can display it, but you have to put a sign underneath it, donated by.
Yes.
1-2 pitch. That's in the dirt. Blake Parker did a nice job of really pitching to the strengths against a guy like Jonathan Singleton. Here getting ahead of J.D. Martinez. Martinez back in the count at 2-2. Astros will start the season. Here's the 2-2. That's low. Start the season Sunday night, the season opener. 2013 season, a whole new ball game here in Houston when the Texas Rangers come to town for the first of 3. Oakland will be in over the weekend. It is out on the road. Uncharted territory for the most part. Starts in Seattle, first road trip of the season. There's a swing and a miss. But Blake Parker just pitched an outstanding inning. We go to the 8th. 6-5 Cubs. it's interesting because the guy on the left, it wasn't so long that now that's the old was the new. That's retro there, Brownie. How about that?
He does have a new cap on with that old uni.
I really do like the new uniforms, and then that's been my favorite uniform. That's what I learned baseball about. Yeah, that's what the guys were wearing when I learned baseball here in this city. As Josh Fields comes on to work for the Astros, and Fields, a guy that he said could not have been happier when he was told that he made this club. As you see the numbers in this spring, 0-1 with a 253. Another one of those guys who came over as a Rule 5 draft pick, born in Athens, Georgia. 6 foot, 180 pounds. And this is a guy, while he's not a big guy, he can bring it too.
He really can. Yep. There's a high-octane fastball. First-round pick of Seattle in 08. He was the 20th player drafted that year. And Alfonso Soriano's coming up for his 4th plate appearance in this game.
What are the chances Alfonso Soriano will get 4 plate appearances in this game?
Pretty unusual.
Yep.
He had a sac fly in the first, an RBI single in the 5th.
I think he's asking himself the same question.
Well, he may be getting tomorrow off. So this may be a trade-off. Cubs are off on Sunday.
That's true. Back-to-back days off. But they will be traveling on Sunday. So head on to Pittsburgh to open the season against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
So what do you think of the NL Central?
Tell you what, a lot more easy to navigate than the American League West. I'll start on that. It's going to be one of those seasons where everybody, you think the Pittsburgh Pirates, everybody always year in and year out. It's going to be the Pirates' year. All those draft picks are finally going to make their way up. And I just don't know. After a while, you just start to lose faith a little bit. But the Brewers, they're a team that I just don't see what they're going to do and replacing some of the pieces in there. Gallardo obviously at the top of that rotation. Kyle Loesch may be a big signing for them.
He may be.
Kyle Loesch, the thing about Loesch is, regardless of the results in which you could look at statistics, the one big number you could look at Loesch year in and year out is that he's going to eat up a lot of innings.
He's done that, hasn't he?
And quality innings, and then it saves your bullpen, and that could save your bullpen for a week. That was filthy.
Soriano turns away from home plate. He's rung up for out number 1. That's the big hammer.
Look at this. I can see us. You know what? Soriano said that was high. He was probably right, but it's the 8th inning.
Look at the break on that from the side.
That was nasty.
Nate Shearhalls, another guy who's played this whole game, looks at ball 1.
What do you do? What are you looking at when you look at the National League Central?
I just think Cincinnati's going to run away.
I agree. And you look top to bottom. I don't know how much. The Cardinals, I never like to underestimate the Cardinals. For whatever reason,
right.
They just seem like when you write them off, they're right there. But Cincinnati Reds, boy, top to bottom on paper, they look like they definitely look like the team to beat.
Cardinals have lost some key performers. And they'll open the season without David Freese, no Chris Carpenter this year. And they've had Jason Mott now go down with an injury, so they have some key people who are not able to perform for them right now.
You look at the American League, and I talked about the Pirates being that team. Kansas City Royals are kind of that team in the American League, that team that, high draft picks for a long period of time that sooner or later are going to make their way to the big leagues. Get enough of them, you only have to hit on a few, and all of a sudden now you put together a good ball club. And the Royals could possibly be that team this year. That's what everybody's talking about.
Good play there as Laird moves to his left, 2 outs. Now the Royals shocked a lot of people by trading Will Myers, one of the top prospects in baseball, to Tampa Bay for James Shields and Wade Davis. But apparently they feel that they can get more out of this team now by going for it now, and that's what they're doing.
Boy, Shields another guy, too. You talk about Kyle Loesch pitching some innings, but Shields a quality starter for quite some time in Tampa. And what message does that send to the rest of that organization when you go out and get a guy like that? And knowing that you're going to have to, I don't know, maybe overpay is the wrong word, but you're going to have to pay a hefty price to get him.
Right.
And that's something that you haven't seen in Kansas City, my goodness, in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Steve Clevenger's up for the first time. Clevenger with a 1-1 count. He's hit .380 this spring.
Steve Clevenger hit his first career home run last June off of Bud Norris right there at Wrigley Field.
He looks like a pretty good hitter, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's got the benefit of being left-handed, though. It seems like everybody who's left-handed looks like they're a good hitter. But like you said, .380 in the spring, Baltimore native. 06 draft pick of the Cubs in the 7th round.
Well, he hasn't been able to translate that into success yet at the major league level. He's a .202 hitter for just 203 major league at-bats.
Not only a backstop, though. He can play some first base. He can play some third base for you, too, can't he?
Right, yes. And that's part of his versatility that could really be helping the Chicago team, because third base is a problem for them right now without Ian Stewart.
Mm-hmm. When do they project him back?
I think it's going to be weeks, because they had to drain fluid from his quadriceps muscle. And then he had to start all over again on his rehab.
They've got the issues in this rotation with Matt Garza, Scott Baker. This guy's probably looking at May.
That's a very good 8th inning.
Wow.
4 Fields with 2 strikeouts, and it's 6-5 Cubs. Against the Texas Rangers. Don't miss Astros pre- and post-game live. Coverage begins Sunday at 6:30, only on Comcast Sportsnet, your home for your home team.
Cubs go back to the bullpen again. Michael Bowden comes in for Chicago as the Astros hoping to flex their muscles here in the 8th inning, down 6-5. Good times at the ballpark tonight.
It's a nice evening to be out.
Yep.
Michael Bowden's 26, Kevin, and has a pretty good power arm.
Seen a lot more of that. There was a time when people thought, whatever happened to the power arms? Man, you're starting to see a lot more of that, and they're just very difficult to get. When people get them, they don't want to give them up. And that's then the thing. You talked about the difference with the Astros. You talk about depth, but you see more power arms coming around the Astros organization now than you have been in a while. But you see the numbers of 2.25. The ERA for Michael Bowden, who worked 12 innings this spring, giving up 9 hits. Looks like he's about 12 years old.
Young-looking man.
Yep.
He was on the opening day roster for the Red Sox last year, but then he was designated for assignment shortly after that, April 15th, and wound up in a trade for Marlon Byrd, coming to Chicago, and had 32 major league appearances last year with a 2.95 ERA.
Former first-round pick, sandwich pick, 47th overall in the 2005 draft, 26 years old. Working here to Trevor Crowe.
Trevor Crowe, an intriguing player. He's hit .263 this spring. No homers, 6 runs batted in. He really plays the outfield exceptionally well. Has a reputation of throwing to the right base. Cuts off balls that are headed for the gaps. Gets good jumps.
Crow, a guy that spent a lot of time in the organization for the Cleveland Indians. Made his way to the Astros as a minor league free agent.
He was talking around the batting cage about the young talent in this organization. He's been very impressed by what he has seen in camp for the Astros this spring. And laces that one to left center field, and that'll be extra bases for Crow. One hops the bullpen fence, then it stays on that warning track area, and he's going to settle for a double leading off the home 8th inning as the potential tying run.
What great swing. And again, he just continues to do the things that he has been asked to do. Ball hit a long way the opposite way. Talk about driving at the opposite field. We've seen some balls hit hard to that gap in this game tonight. That was no exception. Now, runner at second base in scoring position with nobody out in a one-run game.
Good way to lead off an inning, and now it's Brandon Barnes trying to drive him in. Corner infielders are pinching in for Barnes. Barnes struck out in the 6th inning, his first time up. George Springer on deck.
That's what I was wondering. And that's what we're all going to get used to, is how things are different managing in the American League. And baseball is baseball, but that said, you're obviously more apt to move a guy over to third base in a one-run game late in the ball game.
Right. At home.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Where you have the last at bat to try to get that tying run home here in the 8th. Showing bunt again. Sometimes it's just the player who decides, and his job is to get the runner to third.
Right.
How he does it is sometimes left up to him.
Valbuena staying back at third base. Rizzo is obviously pinching in at first, but Valbuena put something down the third base line.
Right. If he has to field the ball, that should give Crow plenty of chance to get to third base. Bunted toward the third sacker, and that'll do it as Valbuena makes the play over to Barney, who stretches for it. And a good sacrifice for Barnes. Runner at third, one out now as he advances the runner.
The little things can mean a lot.
They really can. Now the infielders move in tight, and that's what that sacrifice does.
Changes everything. It sets you up for the possibility of not only getting this run home, but late in a ball game like this, and with that last at bat, George Springer with a chance. He's a guy who can push one through an infield here, guy that can get a bag, and now all of a sudden you got another runner in scoring position, a lead runner in scoring position.
Strike one to Springer. He walked in the 6th inning. Last year, the Astros in one-run games were 17-27. So that's one of their assignments this spring, to do those little things that will make that a better record in one-run games. It's 1-1. And as you say, Kevin, moving to the American League, it does not figure that things like a lot of bunts will be as much in the offing as they have been in National League Baseball, but still, at this time, Brandon Barnes got the bunt down, and that gets filed away, and you know, it may become something that they go to from time to time in certain situations. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Springer.
Get that runner to the third, though, with less than 2 outs, and changes so many of the dynamics of the game.
It does. He can bounce a ball high over the infielders. He can loop a ball just over their heads. There's a lot of room between the infielders and outfielders, so a little pop up can fall.
And the Cubs took advantage of the exact same situation with Darwin Barney. Darwin Barney hit a ball that would have been an easy 2-hop, or you could just do this.
Or a wild pitch works for the tying run. Springer doesn't have to worry about it as the tying run is home to make it 6-6.
Just like that. Double sacrifice, wild pitch. That's a tough pitch, but one that he wasn't able to keep in front of him. We're tied.
Springer takes a third strike. It's out number 2.
They're just setting up Carlos Corcoran for the big fly to send us home happy. Or at least send it to the ninth. The home team happy.
Oh yeah, bottom of the 8th inning, 2 outs now. Corcoran was caught looking in the 6th inning. You know, there's so many things in a game like this. You talk about execution that can be brought up to players after a game. A wild pitch like that can be a real killer for a team. When a guy's behind in the count 1-2, and that ball in the dirt is not blocked, the tying run scores. Those are plays everybody cringes about.
Yeah, it plays that it makes you wonder too sometimes where, you know, the trust between pitcher and catcher. Is a pitcher willing to throw that breaking ball down in the dirt, knowing that you got a guy back there that's not only going to block the ball but keep it in front.
That's right.
And I mean, that takes, you know, you got to have conviction in throwing a pitch. You got to have faith in that guy behind the plate that he's going to do his job.
Exactly. So maybe in the regular season the pitcher doesn't throw that pitch now after this. No balls, 2 strikes. Enough of the experimentation when these games count.
Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, this. No one's going to remember this one. Well, we'll file it away in the memory bank.
You bet.
You know what I'm talking about.
6-9-0 for the Cubs, 6-6-0 for the Astros. Cubs have stranded 3. The Astros have left 4. That's a looping fly ball to shallow left. Soriano moving in. And in the 8th inning, Trevor Crowe gets the rally started with a double. He takes third on a sac bunt. He scores the tying run on a wild pitch. George Springer at the plate. It is 6-6, moving to the 9th. Cubs 6, Astros 6. There's the traffic outside. But inside, this crowd of 11,820. Wondering how this game's going to turn out because it's tied now. Moving to the 9th inning. And we've had a good look at the bullpens of both of these clubs here at Minute Maid Park tonight.
A good look at Hector Ambrose, who comes on to pitch for the Astros. California native, went to UCLA. Came up through the Cleveland Indians organization, had Tommy John surgery in 2011, missed that season, and signed as a minor league free agent last year for the Astros, made his way to the big leagues. Here he is here, ready to break camp with the big club. 0-1 with a 2.45 ERA this spring. 6 hits and 7 1/3. Opponent's hitting .222 against him.
First man he faces is Luis Valbuena, who tripled and scored in the 6th inning. He also has a walk tonight. George Springer is playing well over in left center. There's a wide open gap in right center field for Valbuena, and that's where he hit the ball for his triple last time up. Ball 1. That is a huge space.
You're not kidding. Look at that.
I don't know if you're going to see a bigger gap than that in a major league game.
I'm not sure if boy, they've got a book on him, because obviously that is by design. There's no accident you're playing that far. He pulls the ball once again.
Martinez over to first. 1 out. Josh Fields had a 1-2-3 8th inning with 2 punch outs. Very effective. And now Ambrose trying to get 3 outs in the 9th and give the Astros a shot at winning it in the bottom half. Did you hear that the maximum number of innings played tonight will be 10, Kevin? Or
I did not hear that, but okay. I know that they called the games in Florida after 10.
Okay.
What game was it? It was the Yankee game. It was the game that we talked about earlier.
Right.
CeCe Sabathia started.
Right.
That was Gonzalez started that game for the Astros, but that game was called after 10. I'll vote for it. not that I'm not enjoying myself, but you know, it's spring training. You got to do it again tomorrow.
Darwin Barney singled in a run in the 6th inning.
Again, 1 o'clock tomorrow here at Minute Maid Park, and a chance to see guys like Carlos Correa, somebody we haven't seen tonight. Seen plenty of George Springer this evening. Jonathan Singleton. Singleton's gotten lots of playing time this spring training.
You might see those guys in the starting lineup.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
1 and 2. It'll be fun for the fans to see them get several at bats.
And by not making any comparisons to skill set or what you do on the field, I cannot help but believe every time I see Carlos Correa, I think of an 18 or 19-year-old Alex Rodriguez. Just the way physically the way he looks, the way he walks, the way he moves around the baseball at shortstop. He reminds me of the A-Rod that came to the Seattle Mariners, or if you see video from him in high school in Miami.
We've heard that from several people. F.P. Santangelo said it. He was with a young Alex Rodriguez.
Well, Seattle, right?
Mm-hmm. And he made that comment when we were at the Nationals ballpark in spring training at Vieira when Carlos Correa came in and got that hit. 3 balls and 2 strikes. He'll be at Quad Cities, Class A this year. Roller to third. Laird in and makes a fine play.
Wow.
A scoop by Singleton helping on the other end. 2 outs.
Nice play. Not only the stretch, but the scoop. It starts with Brandon Laird. Barney can get down the line.
That was excellent. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think he got his man.
Anthony Johnson with a call at first. Good play by Laird and Singleton. Now with 2 outs, it's Scott Hairston. Boys, we get ready for a brand new baseball season. There's a lot to think about, Kevin.
Absolutely.
There's strike 1.
Not the least of which, and we talked about that earlier, is familiarizing yourself with teams that you really haven't seen all that much of over the years.
Yes.
Kind of fall into that, even a guy just like Hairston here, where, remember him last year as a Met, but, you saw him as a Padre before that. You follow their career, and while it's not nearly as easy to do, it's so much easier to do, I should say, with guys that you can actually see play. It's harder to do with guys you can just read about in the American League.
Well, we'll learn about it night by night.
That's right.
Right here on Comcast Sportsnet.
Class is in session.
Yeah, and fortunately, Alan Ashby will be back in the saddle Tuesday night. Knows the American League very well.
Yeah, it's been last, 6 seasons on the broadcast team of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll be definitely relying on him.
You know that.
Cheating off of his paper.
Who among us could answer the question, name the Oakland starting lineup right now? 2 balls, 2 strikes. Who's in the rotation for the Seattle Mariners other than King Felix?
Exactly. King Felix and who else?
Let's see. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year unfolding. There is familiarity, of course, with the Rangers.
Well, 1 for 5, 1 for 4.
Let's see. We'll see Yu Darvish in Game 2 of the season. And a fellow named Lance Berkman will be here as the designated hitter.
How about that? It's interesting to see how things are playing out, how that will play out with Nolan Ryan, and just the way power has changed with the Texas Rangers. They're playing an exhibition game at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio.
Well, that's right.
Things have changed with John Daniels becoming the director of baseball operations. We got a business operations guy as well. Time will tell how it works with Nolan.
And now David Murphy is more of an everyday player without Josh Hamilton. So how will David respond?
Whatever the case may be, over the last few years, that obviously John Daniels and Nolan Ryan, whoever did what, did a nice job at building that franchise.
Yes, they did. Good ninth inning for Hector Ambrose in 1-2-3 fashion. That sends it to the bottom of the ninth, and it's tied 6-6.
The bottom of the ninth, tied up with the Chicago Cubs 6-6, and fans will notice a lot of new when they arrive to the ballpark this time around. And along with the new colors, the new look, there's also a new manager, and this whole managing gig is new to Bo Porter. Bo talked with local media today, answering a lot of questions about opening day and making his debut as a major league skipper, and he was quick to say this is not about Bo. This is about the Houston Astros and the direction that we're wanting to go. So he's trying not to let any of that affect his players come opening day.
Well, he's the right man for that, that's for sure. You're talking about a guy that everybody pulling on the same end of the rope. He champions that. He's got a bit of a football mentality to it, but boy, he is everybody pushing in the same direction, that's for sure.
Brandon Laird leads it off.
Sean Camp on now for the Chicago Cubs, a 37-year-old. He's been around a while. Went 3-6 in 80 games last season as a Chicago Cub.
Bouncer up the middle, and it gets on through into center field. A single for Brandon Laird to lead it off here in the bottom of the ninth inning.
Starlin Castro, I think that ball may have gone under his glove. Let's see if he overdove for this, if you will. Nope, went right off kicked right off his glove.
Now Delino DeShields Jr. will go into pinch run, and it gets pretty interesting here with his 101 stolen bases in the minor leagues last year. Now Jose Martinez is the batter. Martinez grounded out in the 6th inning. Pretty good size lead for DeShields.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Clevenger behind the plate. Look at this.
Really close for Adrian Johnson. Shields, the 2012 Minor League Player of the Year in the Astros system. Martinez puts the bunt down. It stays fair. Clevenger gets the out at first.
Good punt. That's where what Clevenger thought perhaps that might go foul, but it's obviously it's a chance you can't take. You got to get that out.
Shields at second now. Here's the play.
I don't think it was going to roll foul.
No, sir. He deadened that ball very well.
I am a huge Anthony Johnson fan there at first base.
And now it's Cedeno batting. Cedeno struck out in the 7th inning. Takes the slider for ball 1. Jonathan Singleton is on deck. Interesting night tonight. And now the Astros would like to make it their 15th spring training win. If they win tonight and tomorrow, they would wind up 16-16 with 3 ties in spring training.
It seems like it's a come from behind win every night when they win ball games. And again, I think that is a byproduct of having young players wanting, not that veterans don't do their best, but from a standpoint of maybe a little more intensity from a young player who's trying to impress.
Turn back toward DeShields at second. DeShields played at Lancaster and Lexington last year. He was the MVP of the California League Championship Series when that Lancaster club won the championship. First round pick in 2010 by the Astros. That's ball 2 to Cedeno. We're going back and looking at the numbers for Ronnie Cedeno and Tyler Green. Green was released by the Astros. Cedeno replaced him. They had almost identical career OPS numbers, Kevin.
Which makes you wonder exactly. You know, with Tyler, he just struggled so mightily in spring training. So this gets through.
Castro with a long throw from the hole and the stretch, safe at first.
Told you. Huge Anthony Johnson fan. That was. He was safe at first, running hard down the line, and now you got something cooking. Runner at third with 1 out.
Cedeno beats it out. Here it is. And it's first and third, 1 out for Singleton.
Did he? Yeah, he's there.
Made it.
All right, time to go home, boys. Right here. Jonathan Singleton. Fans came to see you hit. Send him home happy.
Singleton was 3 for 10 coming into this game tonight. 2 homers, 6 runs batted in. Outstanding production for just 10 spring training at bats. Infielders are in tight. And DeShields, the speedy one, at third.
You know what? I'm not sure how close I'd want to be to Jonathan Singleton after seeing the ball he hit the other night.
Strike 1 for Camp. Fly ball wins it. A lot of things win it for the Astros here in the bottom of the 9th inning. JD Martinez is on deck. Foul back, and it's 0-2 now. Contact now is what he needs with the 0-2 count. Speedy runner at third. Needing to hit this ball in play. Jonathan Singleton tries to come up with something.
Goes from thinking of finding something to drive to finding something to put in play.
Oh, he takes strike 3. 2 outs. Now J.D. Martinez bats.
Whoa, I'm not sure. It's hard to tell, different angles. I know one thing for sure. Jonathan Singleton didn't think it was a strike.
Nope. The Astros are warming up a pitcher. Prepared to go to extra innings. Josh Zeid. J.D. Martinez would try to end it right here. He struck out in the 7th inning. That's strike 1 to him. There's a way that he could be on the club Sunday night. That would involve Fernando Martinez. Runner going to second without a play. Check swing call. Call to strike.
You know, JD last year started off so very well. If you look at the numbers and you look at his game log, he was up around 315 and rather than the 20th of April. So if you look a month later and he had just plummeted. He started spiraling and really didn't know how to turn it around.
And a swing and a miss. Ends the 9th inning. Camp gets 2 strikeouts with runners at first and third. It's no runs, 2 hits, 2 men left. 10th inning coming up, tied at 6.
Astros as we go to the 10th inning. 2013 is a whole new ball game for the Houston Astros, and pro-rated season ticket packages and flexible mini packages are available now. To learn about the exclusive benefits and pricing, or to get your ticket packages today, call 877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com. Going to the 10th here, Brownie, and I think we're going to have seen all the different parts of the Hunter Pence trade, with the exception of Hunter.
Here's the Josh Zeid part. Well, Domingo Santana's here as well. Jared Cosart is not here. He was a part of that deal, but yep, we have just about everybody involved in it.
A lot of pieces coming this way, and Josh Zeid one up, and 6'4" native of Florida, born in New Haven, Connecticut, 26 years old. Josh Zeid will work the 10th.
He went to Tulane. 10th round pick of the Phillies in 09 for that trade in July of 11.
Along with Cosart, Singleton, player to be named later was Domingo Santana, in exchange for Hunter Pence.
David DeJesus leads it off in the 10th inning. He has 2 hits and 4 at bats.
There's a certain moment you remember, and I remember so well Hunter coming off the field in Milwaukee from right field. Once he had gotten the call that he had been traded, there was a lot of speculation that he would be traded. It was an emotional night for him, needless to say.
Jesus looks at ball 1. Josh Zeid has been in minor league camp. His last outing in an Astros game this spring was March 8th against Washington. He got the win with a scoreless inning in that game. It's 2-0. 9 hits for the Cubs, 8 for the Astros. No errors in the game tonight. Cubs have stranded 3. The Astros have left 6. The Astros have played 3 tie ball games this spring.
Gonna win one here. How about that?
Sounds like a good way to go home.
Yeah, why not? You're going to stay for 10, you may as well win it.
3 balls, no strikes.
Pitching has settled down. I don't know if the bats have gone quiet, but you've got some guys, especially for the Cubs, who I'm not sure brought as many, since it is a home game, about a road game, I beg your pardon, they don't go home from here. They didn't bring quite as many players. There's a leadoff walk.
Well, DeJesus, who runs pretty well, is aboard with nobody out. And Starlin Castro will be up next. The Astros talk about their defensive plans now. Jay Chapman, the right-hander, is warming up for the Cubs. They do have several guys from minor league camp.
They're just waiting. Well, they better get him in a hurry. I'm not sure. I know that in games earlier this spring in Florida, they played 10 innings.
Yeah.
And have you ever seen, do you remember a spring training game really going any longer than that?
Not really. Not really.
Well, this is my penance for the game that I did last Sunday.
Okay.
Because it started raining in the 5th inning.
That's right.
And everybody went home.
You guys had the rain shortened affair.
To this day, unbelievable. I know everybody says, well, that's Florida weather. But to go from absolutely not a single drop of rain, no drizzle, no stuff, to just an absolute deluge. I know Ankiel hit a ball. I think he may have punctured a cloud. The ball hit a high pop fly and got to first base, and they made a pitching change. And goodness, I mean, it didn't start to rain. It was like somebody turned the sprinkler on.
It did come down hard. And before they could get the tarp on, so that
no chance.
Rendered the field unplayable.
No chance. Somebody would be gotten hurt because the wind was blowing too. The wind was gusting about 35 miles an hour that day.
Yeah, and the Bay Hill Golf Classic got hit by that too, right?
That's right. That's why it was a short week for the guys that came to the Shell Houston Open, because they had to finish the Bay Hill on Monday. Give it an extra day before Tiger won that.
The bunt. Back to Zide. He drops it and throws to get him.
Nice job of not panicking. Dropped it, but knew he still was able to get his man. Starlin Castro completes the sacrifice.
1-3 play. Getting DeJesus over. DeShields, by the way, has stayed in to play second base. And Jose Martinez is at third. And Singleton broke in, then he got back.
And this is you talked about Delino DeShields staying in at second base. And, you look at major league personnel, you look at minor league personnel, you take a look at Delino DeShields. But where does a guy fit in that organization? Where he might be blocked, because obviously Jose Altuve is here right now. You wonder just for how long. Those are the questions you have to ask. You got to project how long it's going to take for a guy like Delino DeShields to project out to the major league level. How long do you think a guy like Jose Altuve, who's obviously a very young player, is going to be around?
Rizzo took ball 1. Sometimes players change positions if they're blocked.
Absolutely.
DeShields was an outfielder, then converted to second base. It's 2-0.
And not unlike on the major league level when you got Brett Wallace and then you sign Carlos Pena. You obviously have 2 guys that play first base, and you got a guy in the minor leagues like Jonathan Singleton, who is a guy that's not going to be in the minor leagues long. That's when you start learning how to play the other corner of that infield.
Exactly. That's why major league organizations want that kind of depth, to create those kinds of pleasant problems, if you will, to make a decision. All right, we've got 2 guys here at this position. Which one do we want to keep?
And which one do we want to use to maybe go help us at a different position where there's not a strength for the organization?
3-0. I think that's one reason. Here's going to be an intentional walk now to Rizzo to bring up Soriano with 2 on and 1 out. So we talked earlier, Kevin, about developing starting pitchers and having minor league starting pitchers share starts for the first few weeks of the season, so that the starter might go 5 and then the reliever might go 4, and then the next time around through the rotation they may flip-flop. But this gives the Astros a chance to look at more pitchers for more pitches in the game, and then make those decisions. All right, which guys do we want in our rotation going forward now from June on, we'll say. Because that's the toughest commodity to find, starting pitching.
And it's not so much, it's an evaluation process. Your ability to see what they have and work more innings in those situations. You see that now. That's more likely to see that in lower level, whether it's rookie ball or A ball or things like that, where they will do that. But you don't see it very often at the AA or the AAA level, which is what the Astros are going to try to go ahead and implement early on in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to those trades, because it seemed like every time a guy was traded out of Houston, there were 4 guys coming this way.
Mm-hmm. Big cut there by Soriano, makes it 1-1. For instance, there were some guys this spring who were expected to be impressive in the Astros camp, and they got sent out relatively early because they just didn't do that well. So some of those guys may be converted from starter to reliever. Maybe they don't have 3 quality pitches, but they want more information before they do that, and that'll be coming this season in the minor league year. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Careful what you wish for with this guy. But right now, Josh Zide challenging Alfonso Soriano.
Zide had a 5.59 ERA at Corpus Christi last year in 47 games. He struck out 66 in 56 innings. There's Martinez firing to second. DeShields on to first for a snappy double play. Martinez, who just moved over from second to third, makes that sliding play, gets up, guns a throw, and then DeShields turns it into a 5-4-3 twin killing to send it to the bottom of the 10th.
Gotta win it now after a play like that. Bottom of the 10th inning as we go to the bottom of the 10th, tied at 6. Looking for the perfect way to combine business and baseball, or a unique space to hold your next event with state-of-the-art meeting spaces. Minute Maid Park can surpass all your needs. Call 713-259-8800 for more information. Don't forget to ask about softball games as well as batting practice. See the Astros take some BP here in this bottom of the 10th inning. Jump on Jay Chapman. Get him a victory here and send these fans home happy. Chapman, guy up with the club a year ago, beat it in 13, make it 14 games for the Chicago Cubs. 0-1 a year ago. Actually pitched against the Astros at the end of the season. He was a September call-up. Astros lost at the end of the season, 5-4. Then the final day. That's the last time the Astros saw him, and the last time he pitched against Houston.
It'll be Crow, Barnes, and Springer due up in the Houston 10th inning. Trevor Crowe doubled to lead off the 8th inning and scored on a wild pitch to tie the game 6-6. This fly ball heads for right field.
Yes.
Shearholt's back on the track. Shearholt's with a catch, 1 out.
Good swing, though. He got the bat head down. I think he thought he had that.
Did it pretty well.
Yep. Just missed it.
Shearholt's got back for the play. Now it's Brandon Barnes. Barnes with a strikeout and a sac bunt. George Springer's on deck. Nobody currently warming up for the Astros. That's high to center field. DeJesus backing on this one. And it's 2 outs. And George Springer has a walk and a strikeout looking. Chapman's from Panama City, Florida. He came in a deal with the Atlanta Braves last July.
So how does this work? Somebody throw a white towel out from the dugout?
We haven't seen that, but they
like,
probably
like boxing?
Talked before the game and said, hey, 10 innings will be enough tonight if we're tied. That'll be it. We're guessing, but we don't know that. But nobody warming up for Houston right now. There's ball 1. Doesn't mean Josh Zeid can't pitch some more. But there is a day game tomorrow, Kevin.
Yeah, I think we're done.
I would agree with that. 2 balls and no strikes. We could just sign off.
You know, we have that. I don't know if we have that power or not. But I know. I guarantee you, we were off the air before that game was called in Florida the other day.
Yes.
And why, I really don't know, because we had no place to go. We opened the back of the booth, and it was like a hurricane blowing through there.
Now, if the game were tied after 10 and we signed off, how many people do you think would check the box scores to see if they played anymore?
I know you would.
There's a juggling play. Oh, it's thrown away by Rizzo, and now the inning is going to be prolonged with that throw from Valbuena. And runner at second, and 2 outs now as Springer is able to advance on the overthrow.
Now, see, I wish this ball hadn't gotten up into the stands because we're in the dugout. I would like him to see, just keep running. Just take off running. Don't stop.
That's a 2-base error on Valbuena. And Carlos Corporon will get a chance to win it right here. Springer at second. Corporon is 0 for 2.
This is another guy you had to feel good about. Big league opening day roster for the first time in his career. Good, solid guy.
He's worked hard
to
become a better player, hasn't he?
Worked hard to become a better player, to be in better shape, do a lot of different things well. And the great thing about a guy like this is, you know, through the grind of a season, he's the kind of guy that always seems like he always has a nice thing to say and a bright smile on his face.
Yes, a positive guy. 29 years old from Puerto Rico. The Astros have improved their catching depth in the organization since last year.
That was a huge, I mean, and not a lot of, let's face it, not a lot of teams can boast catching depth in their organization. But that has been something that has been sorely missing in this organization, in a lot of different positions, with catcher especially.
Popped up. Rizzo's coming in.
This could get interesting.
That'll do it for the 10th.
We're done. I see the white towel.
They are waving to each other from across the way. We'll see you tomorrow at 1:05, guys. That'll do it for tonight. It's a 10-inning tie ball game. The Astros' 4th tie game of the spring. Cubs 6, Astros 6 in 10 tonight.